What is up, everybody? How we doing? Boom. This is episode 5 and the final part of the Idaho4 reactions. How would this hit if there was a trial? A lot more interaction with you guys on this episode. Look at this. Uh-oh. What is this? Look at this big fatty. What is this? Well, this is the James Patterson book that just came in. I'm in a book club strictly for this book. It's pretty big. I've already read the first 10 chapters, or I'm on chapter 10, I should say. They're short chapters, though. And I feel horrible for Xana's family that's going to have to read chapter 9. That's all I'll say. Absolutely horrible, I feel. But it starts off with everybody breaking the gag order, in case you guys... James Patterson wants to thank, let's see, where does he do his thanking? This book could have not been written without the help and support of hundreds of people, including 320 individuals interviewed, some many times. Moscow, Idaho Police Chief James Fry, now retired, generously gave his time and shared his insights on dealing with the most horrific crime of his career amid worldwide media scrutiny. Importantly, he did this without discussion of any of the specifics of this case and investigation per the gag order put in place by a local judge. The supporting details are drawn from public documents, including court records, and from elsewhere. The Idaho4, An American Tragedy. James Patterson, Vicky Ward. And in the back here, Chief, we got a bad situation. That's the phone call that he received as him and his wife were driving. And yeah. So if you are busy cleaning, driving, working, and you want someone to read it to you, Bella's going to read it to you. So go check it out. Thank you so much there, Super Sticker Sue. Appreciate you. Douglas, getting you guys a gifted membership. Whoever snagged it, thank your boy. And yeah. Okay. Again, I've read the first 9 chapters. And now we're going to finish up on episode 4 here of the Amazon. And then we're going to get into... some sick ass shit that I'm about to talk about after that. We're going to talk about the FBI. We're going to talk about Nancy Grace. We're going to talk about the Intercept. And we're going to talk about the American Academy of Forensic Sciences. We're going to talk about crazy shit. Anyways, how's your guys' evening going? It's like we're having an intimate, 1v1. Jeremiah, where have you been? Welcome back. All right. We got 14 minutes left.
You never know how strong you are until as strong as all you can be. This has always been her space, always will be her space. And it's a place to come and just feel at peace, feel her presence.
So sad.
Someone you love.
This is stuff from the visual.
Ethan was that about him?
Minions! Tonight we steal the moon!
I remember all, different memories that we shared. here. Anytime that I go to Taco Bell, I think of Ethan. That was his favorite place by far. He was the first person I saw that he pre-opened up all of his Taco Bell packets so that he wouldn't have to stop eating. He could just feast. And I remember I thought that was the funniest thing. And now every time I go to Taco Bell, I make sure that I, pre-open like 4 or 5 first, so I don't have to stop.
That's fucking awesome. I've done that.
I could go on and on about the person Xana was, but the little memories are what replayed in my head over and over. Her backflips she would attempt, which usually resulted in her failing and popping right back up, laughing, yelling, "I'm okay."
Book, almost about Maddie. Me and my friends would always read.
So when you watch the last part of episode 4, it goes through a lot of like their social media posts, but some stuff that was either privated or they're actually from like what each the person has, which is pretty cool to see, and to hear from their perspectives.
How she was going to live her life. She decided it, and she just did it. Whenever there's like a nice sunset or like really pretty sunset, like we'll always text each other and be like, "Oh, Kaylee's saying hi."
Of all the memories, I've learned dwelling won't do anything. It's important to remember all the good times and be grateful for the relationships we were all able to form with Ethan, Xana, Madison.
So some of this stuff is a lot. Obviously, we've heard or seen because you've watched the public visual.
I don't think there'll ever be a full acceptance and closure of this horrible thing that happened.
We've been in Boise since 2023 of February. We just have been like putting pieces together since everything, like slowly. We were forced to like grow up. And there was never like, you never get like told when you're gonna have to grow up. It's just like, that was when it was for us.
There's no longer thoughts of the world being a sweet, great place that you always know and truly believed it was. I had long life goals for myself. I had a vision of what I wanted my life to look like. And I've given up on some of my goals just because I realized I'm a different person. I'm still working on the new me to be able to get to a place to set goals again.
I think Emily is the most realist. If you want me to be so blunt, if I was Emily, I would be so confused. Hearing my friends tell me about that night and then seeing these documents, I'd be like, what the fuck is going on? Okay. Also, Emily's family basically took in Xana. And that's why chapter 9 of this book, I'm like, I cannot believe that James Patterson wrote this chapter, because for Xana's family to ever have to read what's in chapter 9, and I think I should read it to you guys. It's just 2 pages. Chapter 9, Boise, Idaho, April 2022. It's nearly midnight when Karen, that's Emily's mom, wakes to her ringing phone. The caller ID says it's Xana. Karen's blood runs cold as any mother's would. Is Xana okay? Is her daughter Emily okay? She picks up in panic. Mama Karen, guess what? Xana says casually, as if the late hours were completely irrelevant. Xana, you scared me half to death. Do you know what time it is? Karen asks. Xana just laughs. Karen relaxes in spite of herself, I'm sorry. How distinct and rich and simply full of joy Xana's laugh is. I wanted you to be the first one to know. I've got a boyfriend. Karen giggles at the needlessness of this conversation. It's obvious to everyone that Xana and Ethan are on the cusp of something, but she plays the game. How did the talk go? Did you guys sit down and discuss it seriously? Xana spills the details. No, it was easy. We didn't need a big talk. It just happened naturally. Xana is a free spirit. Karen sees a relationship as a sign she's growing up. In fact, all the Shark Tank girls are growing up. And Shark Tank is a reference to one of the houses that they lived in. Everyone's forming committed attachments. Emily has begun to date Hunter. Josie is seeing another Delt. Karen is thrilled that Xana feels able to share this moment with her. She has developed strong maternal feelings towards this exuberant, effervescent young woman who is so passionate, so resilient, so unself-pitying, despite a difficult upbringing. Xana doesn't talk much about having grown up without a mother, but the signs of loneliness are there for them all to see. Emily could sense that Xana's home life wasn't exactly the most orderly. Sometimes Xana drove over to Pullman, where her older sister Jazzy is studying marketing at WSU. Jazzy's petite and pretty. She is a sensible one. Xana idolizes her big sister and wants to follow in her footsteps. Jazzy also has nice stuff. So when Xana and Emily visit her in her dorm, Emily knows that she's supposed to chat with Jazzy to distract her while Xana goes ahead and flinches through her wardrobe to find a shirt. In the Pi-Fi house, Xana has mismatched bedding, few clothes. Emily teaches Xana how to do her makeup, how to use a curling iron, skills that the other girls learned years ago, but that no one has ever taught Xana. Before their first Christmas break, Emily noticed that Xana was the only one not packing. Xana, she said, "Where are you going for winter break?" Xana shrugged and said she didn't know. Her dad, Jeff, might not be home. She didn't know his new girlfriend, and she didn't much like her room in the basement. That first Christmas, Emily invited her home to Boise to hang out with her parents. Matt, an Army vet, and Karen, a pretty blonde, who was a dead ringer for her daughter. At first, Emily's parents didn't know what to make of the free-spirited young woman their daughter just had brought home. But Xana was with herself right there. Her expressive hand movements, her open personality, had a talent for winning over people, making everyone laugh. Now Xana regularly stays with Emily's parents during breaks. Karen looks forward to their 11 p.m. phone calls. She comes to visit with the girls in the Shark Tank, that's the name of that house, and goes out with them sometimes. Karen starts to consider Xana a second daughter. And right before that, they talk about how Xana's mom in 2006 gave up custody. And it's just if I was her dad or her sister, to read this and to see how it's awful. Xana isn't much used to rules. She grew up in Post Falls, Idaho, pretty much without her mother, Kara, who had been battling drug addiction for most of her life and gave up custody of Xana and her sister in 2006. Xana adores her dad, Jeff, but he travels frequently for work, so Xana and Jazzy were often left on their own. Along with her best friend, Emily, a pretty feisty blonde from Boise and a fellow New Pi-Fi, Xana regularly busts, and then goes into that. But it's just sad. For a parent to have to read this and think, fuck that work trip. I want, why wasn't Xana coming home on the holidays, on breaks? It's fucking awful. Awful if I fucking had to read that and I was Xana's family. Absolutely awful. Ugh.
I hang out with a completely new group of people at U of I now. And it's kind of sad to say that, but it just was like at a time, it was nice to be with people that like honestly didn't personally know them, which is so weird to say.
It's a very bittersweet moment to say goodbye to my apartment. This was my first off-campus housing apartment. I loved it. Now I'm moving out. This is my spare bedroom. This window faces 1122 King Road.
Okay.
They still
So you can actually see in the video, the house is still up when they're interviewing her. It's boarded up. So again, that should tell you the date that this had to be recorded when the house was up and boarded, which would have been before December of 2023. Do you guys know how long that truly is and how much stuff had come out when this was being recorded? It's pretty crazy. Before December of 2023. That's fucking wild.
have the same caution tape up 368 days later. It's a constant reminder that that's a crime scene that is still ongoing.
The car that you can actually see, because this is like from her apartment, so this is like literally what, like right across the street, on the same street, just right across the road. Her apartment is actually so close to the 1112 house, like in terms of like straight directly across from it, just a little bit then to the left is the 1122 King house. But it's the white little fucking, I don't know, what do you call that little car? Remember that white thing? Remember that white car? It wasn't a car. It was like this little, oh God. What are those ugly things? You guys will know. But that's what was up. And so if we go back to find videos that would surface of when that white vehicle was there, that was the security around the clock. And what she's talking about is this, that she's able, when she looks out her window. Can you imagine that? Every single day looking out that window and you're like looking, wow. But it was the same caution tape that they just never took down and like pulled away. And she just says it 360 some days, right?
Up 368 days later.
368 days later. So this was filmed November 15th of 2023. They're in there filming this. So then, after you're filming it, you're getting all the footage, and you still have to put together your production. So they did all the filming of this with just this part, November 15th, November 16th, 2023.
It's a constant reminder that that's a crime scene that is still ongoing.
My first 2 weeks back into school, I didn't handle it very well. It's been a long road of emotions and roller coaster rides. It's like separation anxiety almost. Finally, I'm doing pretty well though. A lot of people really helped me out and helped me get my life back on track. But my window is on the very end of our fraternity, which faces the opening of where that house is. So I wake up every morning and I open up the blinds, and that house is the first thing I see, boarded up, looking like shit over there.
Looking like shit over there. God, I love this kid too. Tells it how it is. Love it. So they show a picture from his room. So they go in there, or they give him this photo. Like they give either Amazon the photo, or I should say the video, and it's of the house all boarded up. Again, this had to be before the house was torn down. Okay. So that should just tell you how long ago these interviews were. And then the production of, obviously, after you're doing all the interviews and you have to put it all together, and then here it comes out like when it did. But all these interviews happened before that house was torn down. It's a long fucking time ago. None of
want it to go away.
none of these documents saw the light of day. Okay. And if they're putting out of mind and sight all the social media stuff, then, and not paying attention to the news, their interviews are like, I mean, if they're truly doing that, if they truly did that after so long, after like his arrest or whatever, I would still love to know what their theories were, but yeah. What were they thinking when they saw all these documents?
So I don't have to look at it anymore.
Oh, they just showed on the screen December 28th, 2023. Because this is going to be the whole demolition. Now, you want to know about something that's really fucked up about the demolition? I don't know if you guys remember, or if you're just joining after that point, but they had told us a certain time that the demolition was going to begin. Okay. And I had it all scheduled, all planned out. We actually got like all this footage. We have it recorded. We had somebody there, boots on the ground. And what do? They start way before the time that they said they were going to start. And we get news of this because obviously it's loud, right? And just because I knew some locals there, they got phone calls. And they're like, Lana, I think it's starting. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? It's not supposed to start for like, we're getting phone calls. We're getting phone calls. Like, we're getting phone calls. And we're hearing noises. And I was like, get over there. Hurry up. Get over there. And like, unbelievable. Unfucking believable. But they told the media what time this would start. Isn't that crazy? It was dark when they started. And I was like, dude, someone needs to call in a noise complaint. Call in a noise complaint. Isn't it too early to be running fucking noise like that? You guys know, like, what is it, like on Sundays you can't? Yeah. Even that, even like just everything's a fucking lie, man. Like everything. So we got 5 minutes left of this, and it closes out with the demolition of this house. And that should kind of put in even more perspective of, where the time frame is with all of these interviews. And then so for them to see all of this stuff coming out that came out, everything, I mean, they didn't even have change of venue yet. They didn't have, nothing. The case was still in Latah.
It's a haunting reminder of an unthinkable tragedy, but soon the house at 1122 King Road will stand no more. The University of Idaho is saying in a statement, it's time for its removal and to allow the collective healing of our community to continue.
And then so they play here at the end, the house is just being, destroyed.
There's still so much speculation about what really happened in that house. There are still so many unanswered questions.
Just
When the trial comes, I will probably be very nervous. I've never had to deal with something like this, but at the end of the day, I want justice. Justice for the families and for the friends.
I would feel the most like closure if the suspect actually admits he did it, or it's like confirmed in the trial and he gets put in jail forever would be nice.
I don't follow the case at all anymore.
Emily said this.
I don't have care in the world to keep seeing everything be untrue. I think the hardest part about this process is nobody has it right. And it's frustrating to see so many people talk about Brian Koberger. I think he's a loser that shouldn't get talked about at all. I think the only true story should be about their lives.
Getting the story out there feels right because it's really important that I'm the one telling it instead of some random ass person.
There you go. And that's why I don't understand why they didn't use more of him. That was Hunter, Ethan's brother. So Amazon, why didn't you, for 4 episodes, use Hunter more to tell a story? You know what I mean? Right there, Emily, I'm just like, wow. Emily's like, nobody has it. She's saying nobody has it right. Nobody has it right. I'm going to say that I agree with you on that. Nobody has it right. That would mean, do you think law enforcement doesn't have it right? Like, nobody has it right. She said nobody has it right. Like, she didn't say fucking, you guys need to listen to the police, like listen to the police or listen to the prosecution, or nobody has it right. I'm not going to fucking listen to any of this shit because nobody has it right. And I'm not going to give any fucking time to Brian Koberger. Boom. I love it. I fucking love it. If you guys notice, go back and look at every single one of my titles. Go back and look at all my titles for anything that has to do with Idaho. I made it a point to have as like minimal as ever, even if possible, having the name actually Brian Koberger in the title. Idaho4, I thought was more, hey, keep it about them. And then you come out and you hear, I don't want them to be known as the Idaho4. And it's like, fuck. You know what I mean? I get that, but I don't want to, if making it about Brian Koberger, right? So you're like, fuck, what do you do? But go look through all my titles in my lives. Very few and far between are you going to find Brian Koberger in the title. And the only times that I think I can know that I can say it confidently that it would be is if it was a hearing to say Idaho versus Brian Koberger, like hash suppression hearing. Okay. But again, this was said by all of these people before the house was demolished. And wow, I would love to know how they feel now. Like 2 years ago. That was like this. I feel like these interviews were 2 years ago. You know how much has happened in 2 years?
Just parts of it that need to remain just ours. You
Yeah.
know, we care that we are the ones who tell his story and capture his true spirit.
I agree.
I love those girls. We're not going to talk in past tense. I will love them. I'll remember them I will cry about them
God, Maddie and her
I
mom
will
look
continue.
identical.
to keep them alive.
On July 2nd, 2025, Colbert's defense team entered a plea deal with the prosecution. Colbert pled guilty on all counts in exchange for removing the death penalty and accepting a sentence of life without parole. So clearly they just added that at the end, right? And then they talk about the Chapin's family established Ethan Smile Foundation, a nonprofit organization intended to carry forward Ethan's legacy. The foundation provides scholarships to students, enabling them to follow their dreams. Maddie Mogan's friends and family run the Made with Kindness Foundation, a nonprofit organization in honor of Maddie Mogan, Kaylee Gonzalez, and Xana. Their mission is to provide, remember, because Ethan had that, then they were like, well, we need to do something for the girls. Their mission is to provide scholarship funds, grief wellness seminars, and on-campus safety awareness in partnership with universities. And then, as of right now, it is number 3, is ranked 3rd in all of Amazon Prime right now, as far as it's number 3 in the US. And that is all 4 episodes. This is the 5th episode, I'm calling it, because this is the 5th one that I've done. Because I left the last, 15 minutes of the 4th episode for the beginning of this one. I thought this was going to be more recent, so I was surprised when I watched it to find out that, wow, these interviews are from a long time ago, you know? I think I would recommend it to everybody to watch it. Think about this. You've given how much time, if you've been following this case, how much time have you given to this case? If there's anybody that you'd want to hear from, it would be these people. If you're going to give your time to the case and you're going to listen to fucking Nancy Grace or somebody else. But this was just so long ago. So long ago. I feel like I would love to know what Emily thinks right now. So recapping here. What are your big takeaways? Let's go to, I'm not watching Atlanta. I'm not going to spend money on Amazon Prime. I never watch TV. Your recaps are all I have. Well, were they good recaps? Were they fair? Claudia says, I'll take your word for it. No need to watch. Okay, so then you think that it was, you got your fill here. Emily is not credible. Come on. Hella says, right now I still have no reason to believe Brian did it. And I'm pissed this is out at a time that would further taint the jury pool. So no. Well, that's what it says right there. How would this hit if there was a trial? So think about this when they were planning on putting this out, right? And when they gave this release date, a trial was set, right? So this was supposed to be a month, 2 weeks before jury selection, and then going straight into the trial. How would this have hit? Well, I said it earlier today. Basically, we're going to have a list here, and it's like, okay, do you have a Prime membership? That's an automatic out. You're out. Okay. Do you have social media? We want access to all social media because we want to see if you've ever posted about this case. What social media platforms do you use? Where do you get your news from? You know, do you watch Dateline? Okay, you out. Okay, think about this. When I heard that they had brought in 10,000 jurors, that's who was 10,000. 10,000 people. Do you know how many people only were summoned for Richard Allen? 500 or 600. 10,000 people. 10,000 people. 10,000 people. That's so many fucking people. 10,000 people. Okay, so how about let's go. We'll just put that there. I don't know what the hell that is. Let's go back to my questions for you guys. All right. How many people blown away by Bethany telling Dylan, or it being relayed some way, somehow, that Bethany didn't hear any noises? Didn't hear any noises, Bethany. Wow. Well, I mentioned that earlier. How is Jenkins involved? I went back and double checked even more of my stuff. Jenkins has no business being in this. Emily's got to be like, dude, what the fuck? You guys were texting like that? You know? I think the way that the conversation would have went is, yeah, guys, we were told that we couldn't fuck. I had to just say something to you guys, but we were told by police not to say anything about X, Y, and Z. It comes out in the book that just was revealed that the sheath was seen and known about within the first hour of the 911 call, possibly potentially within the first, within that first hour, according to the James Patterson book. If you can connect dots when you're reading. You guys think about Karen Reed case, okay? Karen Reed had a trial, okay? Highly public. So much, no gag order in the first go round. In fact, they didn't put a gag order on this case or that case until like literally right before trial 2. I think I'm kind of disappointed. Maybe they just were never able to talk about it. I hope that they talk about it here in one of the movies that they're making. Dude, these defense attorneys need to talk to Karen Reed's team, however they went about doing what they did for the jury, to pick that jury. It was imperative they had all the time in the world to do it. It took 3 weeks, I think, to do it. And she didn't change venues, right? And here they're able to get a jury that were not fucking idiots. And guess who they stayed away from? We don't want those. Remember I told you guys, we don't want those PhDs. We don't want these people that, dude, I nailed it. I fucking told you who you need. And it's exactly the make and model of that fucking jury. Jury selections, everything. Those people are all that matter. For you to think that you only need to take 1, 2, or 3 days for jury selection is an absolute joke, even if it's not a high-profile case. Even if it's not a high-profile case, I think that that's even when it's more time that you need to take because, you just don't roll with anybody, Fuck, shit, man. Typically Unique, how are you? I think Papa Rogers may be telling in the end. We will see. I think Papa Rogers 150% all in law enforcement. There's no doubt about it. In my opinion, there's no fucking doubt about it. There's absolutely no doubt about it. They were, when that all started, the date, what it coincides with. I mean, especially when you hear Jenkins and that, like, holy shit, the Jenkins part of that. You guys, okay, if you're not going to go watch the 4-parter on Amazon, if you're going to still follow this case, then you have to go and watch me go over the 4 parts, because there's stuff in there that's coming from the investigation. Like the email that was sent to him and in the instructions of that email on November 28th is vital. Like absolutely vital. So if you're not going to watch this series, then if you're going to continue to talk about this case, you'd be an absolute fucking moron, which means that you are going to be discredited, because if you're going to talk about something, you want to know all the material. Otherwise, it's just ignorant. So go and watch at least my hour per episode, because there's so much. There's these nuggets in there that you need. You definitely need them. I think it's interesting how the family feels and the friends feel about not making this about Brian Kober. About, we want to be able to tell the story, not fucking idiots, right? And I totally am with you guys. That's why I believe in unedited interviews. If I'm going to talk to somebody, like here, I'm not trying to cut and copy their, paste some bullshit. I'm not going to hidden true crime you. But fuck. What was I saying? Damn it. I don't know. Figure you'd like that. You like that? You like that? What was I saying? Oh yeah. Okay. I'm surprised that so Emily and Hunter would have been seeing, same with the families, they're watching this docuseries for the first time and they're like, what the hell? They spent a lot of time. Papa fucking Rogers is in this. All this talk about Brian Kohlberger, right? So I'm curious. I would love to, dude, Emily, I know you do not want to talk about this case. You do not want anything to do with it. But if by God you want to, you ain't not going to find a better platform and a more, dude, what's up? Say whatever the fuck you want. Let us pray. Even you can go tell me to fucking fuck off. Okay. I don't care. I'll ask questions. You don't want to answer something, say, I'm not answering that. Perfect. Awesome. But fuck, if you're going to go anywhere after what you've said, if you do go anywhere and you go to the people that you were like, fuck you to, then I'm going to think that you're just a fucking hypocrite or you're just talking out of your ass. Come on down. So I wonder what they feel about that. Thank you so much, Crystal. Thank you so much, WB. I posted those up earlier. Douglas, 11 months. Whoop. We are trying to seek the truth here. We are. There you go. Quite thorough. Okay, good. I think it should be a law to not put defendant's name print. I think it should just be everything's transparent. How much money did Amazon make off of this? We don't know yet. I think Amazon has everything in life, like you're going to make money. I think there's just a right way to do something and a wrong way to do something. But at the end of the day, who cares about people making money? If you're making money off of lies, then that's an issue. Did you guys see my latest post, by the way? You guys see my latest posts? What else I think about this production? I think out of all the productions, I think it's one of the better ones. But I want to know who decided on what TikTokers or YouTube little shorts that they were using, who decided on that? I'm just curious. hey, let's just zoom through and okay, we'll put this up there, we'll put that up there. Bella's gonna read the book. The chapters are short, so it's gonna have to be more than one chapter a night. Carson, thank you so much. Yes, you guys, that email is so telling. I'm gonna be doing a deep dive on that fucking email. That email, I want the whole thing. I want the whole thing. How about somebody Google for me? Google this. Google Nancy Grace, September 25th, 2023. And Kristen Middleman. Google that and see if you find a 17-minute video. 17-minute video of Nancy Grace interviewing Kristen Middleman. Kate says, can you give a recap of the email? Yes, I can. Let's see. That was on, hold on.
We start with breaking news out of Idaho, where prosecutors have filed to seek the death penalty against the man accused of
insisted on pretend that they're open in the bathroom, hoping that you'd leave. And then he messaged me and he said that I had good birthing hips.
I still think
I can't, you guys, don't you feel like they took some fillers because stuff got pulled out? Like, why are you using her? Why are you using the redhead from 2015 that went on some fucking date with Brian, allegedly, supposedly, and said that she has child? Like, really? That's the best that you got? Come on, man. I just, ugh, with that. Just that wasn't good enough. I think, was it in episode 3? It might have been at the end of episode 3, actually. Hold on. Got my episodes running together. Oh, balls. Episode 3. Oh, here it is. Okay.
Found a white Elantra with Pennsylvania plates.
Parking enforcement
We
system.
did a search in our parking enforcement system. Was a graduate student at Washington State University named Brian Koberger, and one of our officers had stopped him previously for a traffic violation.
I do apologize if I was asking you too many questions about the law. I wasn't trying.
Elantra was between 2011 and
Here it is. Okay. So it came from the desk of Colonel Kendrick R. Willis, the guy that says these things take time. Okay. It says law enforcement sensitivity, do not disseminate. Okay. This is just for law enforcement. There's a vehicle of interest, a white 2011, 2013 Honda Elantra. Then it says 4D, 4-door. Okay. Unknown plates, not missing plates, unknown plates.
2013. This car was
Do not air over the radio. Do not air over the radio. Call Idaho State Police. Do not stop the vehicle or make any, and then it cuts off.
between those years. And so they didn't submit it as a lead to Moscow PD.
But okay, this is what's hilarious. It's not saying to submit it to Moscow PD. So that's where I call bullshit on Jenkins. Like, dude, you may be able to sell that to fucking Amazon and they're going to fucking buy it. Okay. But if I was producing the show and I'm interviewing this man, right, I would have said, well, it's not saying to give it to Moscow Police Department. It's saying to, it says it right here. This has everything to do with Idaho State Police. That's who you're supposed to give it to. Did you give it to them? Okay. So this is this email. that was sent out that the police chief, who is now since retired, says that he received on November 28th. He doesn't say November 25th. This motherfucker receives it November 28th. Then literally within hours, they happen to find Brian Kohlberger's. They type it all in and they say, oh, well, this is it's not in the 2011, 2013, but this email that they provided to Amazon, they're going to sit here and say that, dude, that is 100% from the investigation. How in the world that is leaked? That is from the investigation. How can you give that to them?
At all. Like, I understand your.
You know how, and then they're pulling up from the database. Guess what it looked like? It looks, I mean, it shows you on here how they went into the parking enforcement system.
I did a search in our parking enforcement system. Was a graduate student at Washington State University named Brian Kohlberger, and one of our officers had stopped him previously for a traffic violation.
Yeah, I do apologize if I was asking you.
Okay. Now, there's another time that they show. Here we go. Here's a bigger picture. Oopsies. Do not stop the vehicle or make contact with the driver. So that was the rest of it. But it says, call Idaho State Police Dispatch. This wasn't even supposed to go to the Moscow Police Department. Do you understand now Ann has a totally different beast now? If Ann Taylor has never seen this, okay, Ann Taylor would see this now and be like, wait a second. That means all of this shit would have actually not have gone to Moscow Police Department, but all of this shit to do with the car that was internal, it's being said to go to the Idaho State Police. So this is a whole different, I need to get this discovery. Hey, based off of this, anybody that would have come across anything, it says, we're looking for a white vehicle of interest, law enforcement sensitive, do not distribute. And this is from Idaho State Police. Moscow Police Department did not send this out. Idaho State Police did. And they used the same stupid stock image, which don't you feel like that's just crazy? Your obsession with defending a killer is sick. Who's defending a killer? This has nothing to do with defending Brian Kohlberger. He fucking said he was guilty. I'm not defending him. I'm not even talking about that. But I love that you give me all your motherfucking time, Jane. Thank you so much. Because you would have no idea how much it actually helps me. So, and I believe in freedom of speech. So say whatever the fuck you want, Jane.
The vehicle. It's called law enforcement sensitive, meaning that we should not distribute it beyond.
Oh, shitballs. What did I just do?
At Washington State University, arguing with his pushing him for documented behavior at the school, but none of it's verified until we have the documentation.
Ah. Oh wait, did this go to 4? Oh fuck, that went to the wrong one. Episode 3.
We should not distribute it beyond law enforcement. The next day, one of our officers was driving around at one of the graduate student housing complexes on campus.
He just says one of our officers. You should say
They didn't
2.
want us to.
Okay. So here it says white 2011, 2013 Hyundai Elantra 4-door unknown plate. Doesn't say missing plate. It says unknown plate. If a vehicle matching the description is located, obtain the plate only. This is your instructions, is to obtain the plate only. Do not air over the radio. Call Idaho State Police Dispatch at 208-799-5144. Do not stop the vehicle or make contact with the driver. Okay. Also, I have no idea if they put on this when they actually put this out, because we don't have the bottom of it, of this. is what case does this have to do with? Okay. I don't even think that they put it doesn't say like, it just says law enforcement sensitive, do not distribute, vehicle of interest. So they were just looking for this. It doesn't say that this has anything to do with the Idaho4 case. Okay. And what's super, super interesting, a couple things, is that they put 2011, 2013. Okay. And this is what Ann Taylor was arguing. Ann Taylor was arguing that they did not change the year to extend all the way to, the 2015, 2016, whatever, until after the identity of Brian Koberger. Until after the identity of Brian Koberger. Based on this, okay, Ann Taylor is 150% accurate. All right, like she can fucking prove this, but I mean, I don't know, maybe she struggles to articulate that in her arguments. But I couldn't believe that. I was like, wait a second. Do not air over the radio? Motherfuckers, you think this is a fucking cop. Do not air this over the radio. They think that this person, like, they don't want law enforcement to know about this. Do not air this over the radio. Also, that's also what? Discoverable. That goes over all public requests. It's all discoverable. So it wants you to make a phone call, which is what? Oh, that's not recorded. But this is Idaho State Police. This is not Moscow Police Department. And if you go if you go back to, they would know then that anybody that's reporting to the Moscow Police Department tip line or FBI tip line would all be citizens. But the people that would be, Latina, hi, love your face. Mwah. But all the people that would be sending to the Idaho State Police, right? Now that's law enforcement because they're the only persons that are being told to send to Idaho State Police. And I'm over here like Jenkins is over here saying this is why this did not get sent to the Moscow Police Department. Well, bitch, it was never supposed to go to the Moscow Police Department. Can you not fucking read? And here's Amazon. Thank you so much for the interview, and just fucking walks away. Like, hey, I got some follow-up questions for you, buddy. Remember how you were talking about this is why you didn't send it to MPD? Well, I was looking through something, and it would have been sent to MPD because it's saying Idaho State Police, here's the number. You're not sending shit to anybody. You were to call them, and you were to only get the plate and send us the plate by calling us when you find a car like this that fits this requirement, which is a 2011 to 2013. And we do not want it aired over the radio. Well, that sounds like you don't want it to be heard by law enforcement. Isn't that crazy? Huh. Couldn't this just be a mocked up email? 100% it could be. Call up Amazon and ask them. Looks pretty official to me. You want to know how I know that? Because of the header. And they normally put on their videos reenactment. You know, that wasn't on there. I'm putting all my chips on that it's a real email. But that's a question for your producer. Students were removed that night, not killed. Saw on an interview with Katie saying Maddie just bought a house. She left the interview, called her attorney to be in the interview. What? This is truth and transparency. I think you're in the wrong chat. Sharon, what the fuck? Then go take that to Annalise, okay? Sorry. That just made me spit. Like, Kate, you're so welcome. That was a good one. That was a good question to be asked. The other things I thought was weird about this is I don't think this should have ever been talked about, right? But the narrative is what they're trying to push, and is Amazon behind this narrative, which is think about this, for example. Think about if IGG would have never been. Think about if this was a 2002 case, okay? Can you imagine then this case is cold, doesn't get solved for a long, long time, and then it gets to the fact that, oh, now we have IGG, or let's just say that this person committed a crime and the DNA that we put in CODIS, right? It gets a hit then all these years later, holy shit, right? And then we're watching on some, documentary about, oh my God, they fucking came across that dude's car and they didn't even fucking know it. Blah, 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 all because they were like, oh, this doesn't fit in the requirements of the 2011 and 2013. So they just bypassed it. Why would you have it be so so limited? What vehicle at first were you using? What picture were you using? If you think about it, like that you would, why wouldn't it be a 2011, 2016 right off the rip? You're using a stock image, okay? But also the thing that's nuts is that if you look at Immel's, and Immel's report breaks it down that there was 5 or 6 or 7 different models and makes that could have been. But you only put out in the to Washington, you only put out the one model, when he breaks it down to say that there could be 7 different models. We're trying to catch a killer here, and okay, I'm going to show you guys. So if you guys go to my community page, which I'll just take us there. No work has to be done. I will do it. I will do the work. And you go to posts on the community page. It will say Idaho4 developing story and breaking news. Maybe not for mainstream media, who has kept the real story hidden, but see the picture. And so if you go and you look at the picture that I posted, and what I'll do is I'll pull it up on this screen so you guys can see. This is going to blow your mind. It's going to blow your mind. I like blowing your minds in the evenings. Okay. All right, let's go. Let me bring up, I'm going to share a different pic for you guys. All right. Woo. Okay. Is that showing on your end? Okay, good. It's showing, right? Perfect. Now let's zoom in on this piece. Ah. Okay. CrimeCon exclusive interview, Kristen Middleman, 9/25/2023. Now I'm going to tell you guys a little bit of a story. Okay? Tell you guys a story. Here we go. Do you guys remember what happened in August of 2023? That's when all of the DNA experts were called in by the defense for their motion and their objection to the state having a protective order put on the IGG. Okay? There was a protective order, and then it went back and forth in different, filings. And then in August, at the end of the month, there was a hearing where Leah Larkin, Becca Barlow, Gabriel Vargas, who else was in there? Ryder, I think that was his last name. Anyways, you guys know, right? Okay, great. Okay. And it was in front of Judge, and it was for the purpose of getting the IGG, that it should be discoverable. All right. So 1 month, not even after that, when this is all fresh, and Judge would have made a ruling here just right around this time frame, which is the Crime Con 9/25, I think it was like 9/23, 2023. This Crime Con was held in Orlando, Florida. And Nancy Grace, right here, sits down with DNA crime fighter Dr. Kristen Middleman at CrimeCon to discuss how her high-tech lab, notice how they do not say the name of the lab. They say her high-tech lab can help in solving cases like the Idaho and Giglio murders. Okay? Then my exclusive interview with Nancy Grace and full presentation at CrimeCon are now available on Fox Nation, September 30th, and she posts it 5 days after Nancy Grace does, okay? And I'm over here like, interesting. Like, this is interesting to me. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I just asked you guys to go Google this, okay? Go Google this and try to find this 17 minutes. Can anybody find it? Can anybody find the 17 minutes? Her lab is Othram. Can anybody find the 17 minutes to watch? Can you watch it? Now, during the midst of all of this shit, like, who is this mystery lab that worked for the FBI, that did the supposed casework, that found basically Brian Koberger, right? Well, go ahead, try to go find it. Send it to me if you can find it. Send it to me if you can find it. Okay, ready? So if you go back to my post, I say, see the pic. This pic is from Kristen's Instagram account, September 30th, 2023, from a sit-down with Nancy Grace during CrimeCon 2023 in Orlando, Florida. And then I have an explosion, and it says, in Nancy's description / caption, in September 25, 2023, Nancy Grace claims in black and white that Kristen's lab solved the Idaho murders case, as well as that other serial killer case. And then you come and you read this, and it's like, well, it says, can help. Can. Bitch, can. What are you talking about? Can. You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? Can. Okay. Now, this is what's interesting now. Here, everybody should be asking themselves, what is Nancy Grace talking about? Because in reality, what the world should have known right then and there is that actually Othram couldn't help the Idaho4 case if you go by what was put out publicly, which was that Othram was Idaho State Police third-party lab that they used, right, for the IGG, and that it was actually Othram that could fucking not get anything, okay? And so I continue to say, So here, Nancy Grace is, and in this interview that's nowhere now you cannot get your hands on, like those 17 minutes, because I don't watch Nancy. I did not know that this existed. Okay. But I'm a digger. And so I say, can you say boom? Kristen not only supported this segment and captioned by Nancy Grace, but she posted it to her Instagram. Okay. 5 days later, this public account could and should have been searched by Brian Kohlberger's investigators. And the reason that I'm saying that it should have is because I know for a fact that the people that would have been used by the defense just a month earlier, okay, they're all trying to figure out whose lab, right, did the FBI use and what genealogist did the FBI use, okay? There's this mystery lab, as Jay puts it, and that the Idaho State and the FBI and the prosecutors, they don't want to reveal this mystery lab. Okay. Now, do you remember when Howard Bloom came out and he said that basically Othram worked on it twice? He fumbled it around a little bit, but it was like the first time that they tried to develop this profile that they couldn't. Okay. And then it was like the second time is that they could. And where he fumbled it around with is because people were thinking that it was the Idaho State Police, their lab, that was doing the actual CODIS upload, that's what was fumbled, okay? But in actuality, he wasn't wrong when he said that Othram had it twice, or that Othram did it twice. He just didn't know what the fuck he had, okay? And what he had, in my beautiful mind opinion, is that you had Othram being both the Idaho State Police's third-party lab that they use for the IgG, as well as then you have the FBI who also used Othram and as its lab. And that's why they had to go through holy shit lengths to cover this up. What I mean by covered up is to, under no circumstances are we going to announce what lab the FBI used. Okay. Now, if you go and you look at, Ann Taylor was so close. I don't even know if Ann Taylor knew this at the time, because where the bluff came in is the state then bluffed, like it was going to call David Middleman to the stand during this big closed hearing, right? On January 23rd, 2025. So the state has him there. They're acting like they're going to call David Middleman. Okay. And so you would go to this page. It's page 165 of the transcripts. And it says, the court says, pardon me, defense, I'm used to the state going first on things. I apologize. Does the state have witnesses? Mr. Nye says, Your Honor, no, we're not going to call Dr. Middleman. So, and actually I shouldn't even just say that it was David. It says Dr. Middleman. So that could have actually been Kristen. She's a doctor. She's PhD. So if you go to page 165 of the transcripts, it's right there. And here it's like, well, why didn't you call him, right? Well, was it a bluff from the beginning to say, or were people planning on lying? I don't know. But all I can tell you is then you go, remember I said you're going to get out your old transcripts. And now you're going to go to when Daniel Helwig was on the stand. And you know, Ann's asking him questions, and she says, okay, well, while you were reviewing this information, so you could learn and try to figure out what happened here, did you have any ability to call anybody from the FBI and say, hey, what is going on? Answer, I don't know who did the genealogy work at the FBI. Ann Taylor, why is that? It's not in the information that we received. Question, is that the part that was redacted? Answer, I don't know if it was redacted or if we just never got it. So there was that one email that had a redacted sender and a redacted recipient. Presumably, those were the people doing the genealogy work. But other than that, I have no idea who did the genealogy work at the FBI. Are there any other ways the FBI went there where they were not supposed to go? There was one piece of information in the discovery material that I did review. I believe we asked them to turn over the match lists. And they were like, oh, we can't turn over the whole match list because it was like 20,000 people. And that actually right there was a big tip off, because if they had only used GEDmatch Pro and only used family tree DNA, I think at most they could have had gotten was like 10,000. So that right there tipped me off that they were in a database that they should not have been able to be in. Okay. Okay, well, then Ann says, well, during the course of our work to try to understand what happened here, did you assist us with reviewing documentation and teaching us what else should have been aware or that we needed to be asking for? And she says, what specifically? Well, about the databases they went in and match lists, blah, blah, blah. So then they talk about those match lists. But before that, this is Leah Larkin. Okay. Okay. Question. At first, they believed that there could potentially have been, I think, CC Moore doing it, okay? And so they were asking questions, and they were kind of all over the place, right? Then we get to this part, which is, so question. So the public outcry, that was people that didn't want their profiles searched by law enforcement. Answer, right. Prior to this, there had been occasional discussions in the genealogy community, people saying, oh, the cops are going to get our data. And other people were like, no, they only use CODIS, so they're not going to use our databases. And it turns out they were. The Golden State Killer case was being investigated. I'm not sure exactly when it started. I think 2017. And he was arrested in April of 2018. So law enforcement or genealogists working on behalf of law enforcement were in fact using the databases without the knowledge of or consent of the regular person genealogists who were in the databases. That was a knock on CC Moore. Question. So was it in 2018 when the terms of service used the people's privacy rights were recognized? Yes. And that was the same year that Othram began. Boom, Othram hits the market. Okay. Othram begins in 2018 for the record. So there's a whole series of changes to the terms of service. So I can speak to the precisely which dates and which databases and which changes. I recall that, my heritage. So it goes on to talk about that stupid shit. Doesn't matter. Okay. Well, let's talk about this case. You were brought on to help us in this case. Answer, yes. I was brought on to help you interpret and understand what was done in the terms of the genetic genealogy of this case. Question. What did you look at to do that? Answer. Well, it's been a bit of a struggle getting all of the material I would like to look at. So I have seen basically photos of a giant kind of poster scroll of a family tree that I believe the FBI built at Ancestry.com. I've seen pictures of whiteboard in which they sort of like hand wrote on the whiteboard a descendant tree. So basically looking at some of the ancestries and the mapping out of the descendants lines leading to the certain DNA matches. I've seen communications between, in some cases, I can see who the recipients are. In some, I can't. But I've seen a lot of email communications about the case. Do you want me to go on? Anne's like, no. In the course of your work to try to help us understand what happened here, did you learn that first Othram worked on the case and then the FBI took over? Answer. Yes. So Othram, I believe they were contracted based on the invoice I've seen. They were contracted to do the lab work. So to actually generate an SNP profile, upload it to GEDmatch Pro and Family Tree DNA, presumably through the approved portals. And then I believe they were contracted to do the genetic genealogy. So they did the wet lab work and then they were doing the genealogy. But they were told to stop work. Again, she says, I believe. So when you go back and you read this, these whole I believes, just like how law enforcement uses I believe versus I determined, I believe on December 10th. And I've seen the preliminary report they wrote. All right, Anne says, have you had a chance to look at what happened after December 10th? So after December 10th, there were some email communications between the one I think was most interesting to me had the names redacted and it contained screenshots. So just to backtrack a little bit, the Othram report reported 2 main DNA matches. One of them shared 70.7 centimorgans of DNA. The court reporter says, I'm sorry, 70.7 centimorgans. Do you want me to spell that? The other one I think was 60. And Othram's report specifically said those are low matches. Othram figured out how those two people were related to one another. I believe they were third cousins to one another. And based on how much DNA they shared with the crime scene profile, they thought that the individual who contributed the crime scene profile was a descendant from the second great grandparent of those two matches, a man named Redacted and his wife Redacted, I believe were their names. And they were born in the Redacted. Okay. Ms. Taylor says, so this would be like 60 and 70 centimorgans is fucking dirt, nothing. And Sarah then says, okay, when Othram quit work, were they following a family tree that could have led them to come to Brian Kohlberger? Answer, yes. She continues to say, yes. So based on my initial review of what they did, the crime scene profile was most likely a decedent from Redacted and Redacted, or perhaps from one of their siblings. It's hard to tell with DNA because it's not all third cousins share exactly the same amount of DNA. Some share more, some share less. It's just kind of like statistics. It's a game you play. That couple had redacted children. And so there conceivably could have been hundreds of decedents from this couple. I haven't seen the full tree. I've just seen they had redacted children. Othram chose one of those children and had tracked down, I believe, grandchildren. And there were 4 brothers. They recommended testing one of those brothers to get more DNA, to get a closer handle on where their crime scene profile might fit into that family. And then says, so when Othram stops there and the FBI takes over, you told us you saw something from Ancestry.com. Would you have expected to see any other kind of file with that file? So think about what Othram is supposed to be turning over if they're stopping their work. Okay. Answer. So this was basically like a giant poster-sized printout of information from that family tree. A family tree, when you build one at Ancestry, it's stored in a specific kind of data format, or more precisely, you can download the file in a specific type of data format called GEDCOM. And it's a universal file format for genealogy trees. So you could take that file and you could open it up in a standalone software on your own laptop. You could upload it to a different genealogy company. I have a GEDCOM file for every single client case that I do. When I'm finished with an adoptee case, I basically give my client that file so that they have their records and all the work that I did. And I would have expected the FBI to have that as well, but they did not turn that over. You didn't see one of those? I did not see one of those, no. Okay, question. Knowing that Othram finished their work on December 10th, and then the FBI took over, and we've heard that by December 19th, 9 days later, they'd made an identification. Is that significant to you? Oh, yes. Oh, why? Because Othram's matches were, as in their own words, in their report, those matches were low as fuck. They were recommending testing these 4 redacted brothers to get more information. If you went out and if you approached those men, and even if one of them said, yes, you can test my DNA, the testing itself, now listen to this, please. The testing itself would have taken some time. Getting a kit to a person, getting the spit, sending it into the lab, having it analyzed, and it would have led to the crime scene profile and it wouldn't have led to the crime scene profile because guess what? They were in the wrong family motherfucking branch. This is Othram's original first work. Okay. So I then was determined to go and research the fuck out of Othram. You know why? Because of Kristen Middleman. Because of what they developed and what she was claiming, and Nancy Grace and all this shit, is that there is no way. There's a case that's called was it Carla Walker. And when I went and looked at her Instagram, there was nothing on this Instagram page until basically 2022. And then all of a sudden, Kristen is now posting. She's going from posting all of these modeling and body workout to now, poof, all of this stuff about crime fighting, DNA, blah, 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 blah. Okay. And I was really interested. I was like, holy shit, like just reading this, right? But when it all started, I was like, damn, August of 2022. And then there's this print up in this article about the work that they did for this 46-year-old case out of Texas for the cheerleader that was at a Valentine's Day dance with her boyfriend. Then they're in some car. He gets hit over the head. And then the girl, Carla, is taken. She's raped and killed. And they solved this case 46 years later. And it's from all of this new cutting edge equipment and technology. And Kristen's bragging about it on social media. And so I go and I pull all this information. I want to read all about this. And so when I'm reading this, I'm like, they're basically calling out law enforcement saying they are using stuff that's so outdated. If they start using our stuff, these 250,000 cold cases that exist across America, we're going to solve them like that. Go, if you don't believe me, go look at the social media stuff. I was like, she's was interviewed by, New York Times. And then all I start seeing is after that post, it was, that's August of 2022. Well, then you have the November 13th, 2022 murders. But here in 2021, what I realized that they did is, Kristen's a very beautiful woman. Well, who better to, she's also got a PhD. Who better to market your shit than a beautiful, smart woman? All of a sudden, boom, Othram is literally taking over, like creating a monopoly. And this is out of Texas, the Woodlands. I played golf there, by the way. It's fucking awesome. But I was like, I want to do some of this digging here. Okay. Well, me personally, I would have seen, or somebody should have seen, that this public account could have and should have been searched by Brian Koberger's investigators. If it would have been, and if it wasn't, then I think it's beyond incompetency, because this was at the exact same time that you have somebody that's on a Nancy Grace segment talking about that basically their shit right here. Nancy Grace sits down with DNA crime fighter Dr. Kristen Middleman at CrimeCon to discuss how her high-tech lab can help in solving cases like the Idaho and Giglio Beach murders. Well, somebody should have been like, why is Nancy Grace writing that? First of all, Othram basically got shut down. Like, and I write it here in my post and I say, notice how Nancy Grace in here in this title doesn't say Othram Labs. She says Kristen's high-tech lab. She does not say the name of it. Thought that was interesting. And I said that's pretty sneaky as fuck if you ask me. But she's basically saying that what they do can solve cases like the Idaho and the Giglio murder cases, okay? And I'm like, wait a second. But Ann Taylor would have to have known, or at least called these people to the stand to inquire if they were the FBI lab. Because technically, based on the discovery that Ann Taylor was provided, Kristen's lab didn't do anything of the sort of what Nancy Grace is talking about. In fact, they fucking fell on their faces, according to the reports of that Othram couldn't fucking kick it, couldn't do it. Kristen's lab didn't have anything to do with it, I write. And instead, the mystery lab the FBI used and those genealogists solved the case. Unless you're sitting here saying that you are the mystery lab and you are the genealogist and that it never left your fucking site, okay? Othram, according to the discovery, couldn't get the job done and needed 4 brothers to donate their damn DNA, and they still would have been in the wrong fucking department, okay? This is what I'm writing. Nancy Grace's interview tells the world that in order for Othram to be the lab, Kristen's lab to be the one that could help with stuff like this, well, then that means that Othram never stopped doing any of the work. And they actually created a fake chain of custody within themselves by Othram basically sending the stuff all to the FBI, only for the FBI to send it back to Othram. Could this be the reason that, if you think about it, why the FBI could never reveal who their fucking lab was, right? And who the genealogists were, right? So please explain how a PhD in Kristen Middleman could be so careless, in my opinion, as why would Middleman ever agree to do any of these shows, interviews, and out herself as being the lab that helped solve the Idaho murders during the middle of a huge legal battle with the Idaho4 case? Because at the time, it's August 28th. They're trying to get all this information. Othram's on the fucking hot seat, right? Here's Kristen being interviewed by Nancy Grace, like, what the fuck? All right. Also then come to find out, guess who the FBI just basically go call up Othram and ask him what fucking deal they just cut with the FBI. Because none of it makes any sense. Because based on the discovery, it doesn't make sense. Othram would have failed, more or less, that they couldn't do it, right? Then you go back to the line of questioning. And ready for this? So Ann Taylor lets Leah Larkin say all this stuff, and she's like, it would have led to the wrong family branch. So going from low matches to an ID, or at least a tip, whatever they were calling it, within 9 days, that right there told me that they had gone into a database they were not supposed to be in. Question: were there other ways that you were able to confirm your belief? Answer: yes. Well, what was that? Answer: so one of them, in one of those email communications, I believe this is the one that had both the sender and the recipient redacted, there were screenshots from GEDmatch, and this was about, and I believe it said, so there were screenshots. How do I put this? In GEDmatch. GEDmatch has a very open system. So if you're in GEDmatch and I'm in GEDmatch, and let's say we were cousins, I could go in and look at my kit and I would see that you are in my match list. But I could also go into your kit and see me in your match list, okay? Because we're public to public and we're cousins over here, so we'd be able to see each other, right? GEDmatch is just a super open database in that way. Any kit in the system that is public, you can see their matches. So pay attention. Ready? The one exception is, however, is that if there are forensic kits in the database and I'm a lay person and I'm looking at a lay person kit, I can't see the forensic kits. So even if you're my cousin, I'm not going to see that you match with me. Okay. I can't see the forensic kits because they are invisible to me. But there is an email communication that has a match list from the perspective of somebody who only used the initials SC. I have no idea what this person's real name is. In the database, they are called SC. This screenshot is taken from the perspective of SC, and there is a match to the forensic profile from SC's perspective. That means it couldn't have possibly been in there as a law enforcement kit because you're not supposed to be able to see those. Okay? Ready? That tells me that the forensic profile was uploaded through the regular GEDmatch Pro portal and not the GEDmatch Pro forensic portal because it should not have been visible to SC. Okay? And the email says, in quotes, "This one's ours." Okay? And for the longest time, everybody was looking at this because it kept on being repeated. Fuck, you know who was saying it to me constantly? Miss Potts, love her to death. She was always bringing up this whole, who the fuck is SC? Is that fucking Stacy Chapin? I'm like, God damn it, no. Okay? It's them testing something, in my opinion. But this one's ours. Whoever the fuck it is. Let's even say that it's fucking Stacy Chapin. I don't give a fuck. I was like, no, this means something else. But I need to do dig. I have to, I'll figure it out, but I just need some time here. But it's not what you think, but let me get to it. Then the next sentence says, and the other thing is that GEDmatch will also tell you how many days. Now this is the fucking nuts. And the other thing is this, is that GEDmatch will also tell you how many days a kit has been in their system. So this is important. And for that kit, for the match to SC, it had been in the database for only 1 day. So now think about this. But Othram had uploaded it. Titties! Here we go. So I'm going to repeat this part. Ready? This is Leah Larkin breaking this all down. Okay. Supposedly, right? Othram's done. Washes her hands. We're done on December 10th. You guys told us to stop working. And here Nancy Grace is over here praising this broad about talking about that Othram can do all these great things, right? Well, no, I think any lab can do a lot of great things if you can go into any fucking, databases you want, And so Othram was over here selling it to seem like we're able to solve all these cases because we have this awesome fucking technology. We have awesome tools and all this shit. Well, maybe you just have these databases. Okay. So going back here now to, please pay attention to what she says here. And it says, well, SC shouldn't have been visible to this other profile because if it's a law enforcement uploaded, kit, you're not able to see that then. So that was something. And then she's like, and the email says this one's ours. She's like, and the other thing is that GEDmatch will also tell you how many days a kit has been in their system. And for that kit, for the match to SC, that's supposed to be law enforcement, for the match to SC, it had only been the database for 1 day. But Othram was the uploader of it. I'm not sure exactly when, but I would say 6 to 7 to 8 days prior. So it should not have said the kit was only 1 day old. Unless Lana is motherfucking right, bitch. And the reason is because Othram was the fucking FBI lab, motherfucker. And this is the proof. This is your proof is in the pudding. This is what Leah Larkin was hung up on, is why the fuck would it that it's only been in the system for 1 day and Othram uploaded it, but it shouldn't say that because she's saying, I'm not sure exactly when, but I would say 6 to 7 to 8 days prior. So it should not have said the kit was only 1 day old. Unless Othram was still on the case. This is Anne's follow-up question. So based on that email and what you saw, it confirmed your belief that the FBI used a non-allowed? And it should have been like, so based on that email, are you saying that Othram was still on the case? And that Othram's the FBI lab? As well as Idaho State Police's lab? And that the same genealogists worked both cases? Meaning they never left the case. They were contracted in 2021. So, Idaho State Police went to them to do the S&P part, right? Hey, shut down working, right? Because the FBI is going to take it over. Well, what third-party lab did the FBI use? And what genealogist did they use? That would be Othram. And what Othram did now, remember? Now, why this is so hilarious to me is Othram's running around talking about how all of this is all state of the art. If you go and you read, I'll read it for you. I'm not going to make you guys work. I'll do the work. You just remember where it came from. By the way, and this would be why it was so important to not use the IgG and the probable cause affidavit, because they all violated the DOJ policy in the most perverted way possible. And under no circumstances was it to ever be disclosed what lab generated the FBI tip. Okay? Because this would expose that Othram knew that they were Idaho State Police's lab, right? And that we're working on it, right? So we want to talk about ethics. Okay. People are like, well, it's just a policy. You can do whatever the fuck you want. Yes, you most certainly can. Okay. But it comes down to now, how come the FBI's was double the size? How come double the size of Othram's? You mean, and when you actually go and you read this and it tells you the only way that's possible is if you started from the original raw data. Who would have that? Fucking Othram. Because they did it raw with the extract for the S&P shit. But you'd have to, Ann Taylor needed to break it down way more than she did. I said, remember, Othram's reputation from all the reports from Bloom and the rest of the reporting from these sources were that Othram's labs said that they couldn't cut it, basically. AKA, they couldn't get a profile. They couldn't get anything from their attempt. And the Statesman came up with that lame fucking ass invoice from Othram, remember? Was everyone trying to cover for how really this went down, except for the middlemen who really were like, what the fuck, dude? We're getting a bad rep from this. Fuck that. You know what I mean? But if the truth came out, though, which would be, then you guys then knew that the FBI and you guys paired together, right? And the FBI violated the DOJ policy, right? Because they had the genealogists go into databases that they were not supposed to go in. Or is it even fucking worse than that? Heather, yes, Anne truly didn't fully understand it. That's why she couldn't fully break it down. I'm looking forward to an interview that I'm having soon for you guys. Okay. I said, this is absolutely wild. I said, how is no one else talking about this right now? I said, I will keep this on repeat for fucking days leading up until July 23rd, 2025. And then I hashtagged everybody because it's like, come on, who's going to fucking talk about this? This is absolute craziness. So then I went to read about this article. Okay. Kristen Middleman says that her laboratory has revolutionized forensic science. Okay. Now, do you know what this would fucking happen if this all comes out? Ready? U.S. police and investigation agencies use the FBI's CODIS DNA index CODIS system. Okay. Middleman, who has a PhD in biomedical science, said that while CODIS users could check only 20 DNA markers on samples, Othrum's technology created profiles with hundreds of thousands. And while CODIS users are limited to comparing the results with other samples on the FBI database, Othrum spreads the net wider to other genealogical databases which contain far more. Middleman said, in quotes, there are other labs that can do genome sequencing, but they're doing it in a medical way. A medical way. And do you remember when Ann Taylor was talking about all this medical shit? Okay, again, this is in quotes. In a medical way or in a consumer way. Like when you want to get your ancestry results. Continuing on with the quote, there's no one else that has tailored the process for forensic evidence. And that is why we have got more evidence than anyone else on Earth, and why we're solving more cases than anyone else on Earth. Is that a fact? Walker's murder and other high-profile cases Othrum has been involved in. You can continue to read. Walker's murder is one of the most high-profile cases Othrum has been involved in. She was with her boyfriend, Rodney McCoy, in a bowling alley. The car was parked at the Fort Wayne in February of 1974 when they were attacked. The murderer beat McCoy over the head with a pistol before dragging Carla from the car, raping her, and then killing her. Her body was found 3 days later in a lake. They were able to solve this because they were able to, with whatever they had, they said that they were able to take so fucking degraded DNA off of Carla's bra clasp, okay? That they were able to take, from Carla's bra clasp, and they added a bunch of shit, and poof, they were able to get this lead, arrest this guy. And this is from Saturday, July 9th, 2022. This write-up, by the way. And they then created Carla Walker's, it's a Carla Walker Act. Her name's in it. And the governor of Texas. And so then, anyways, you guys can go read all about it. But so here, Othrum is saying that they have all of this fucking shit, right? Well, so how the fuck did Othrum get it so wrong when it was given to them by Idaho State Police? Ready? So based on that email and what you saw, it confirmed your belief that the FBI used a non-allowed blah, blah, blah. Okay. And Ann Taylor gets cut off, but really what Ann Taylor needed to be thinking of. But here you have to remember, waiting in the wings, Ann Taylor thinks that she's going to have her stab at Dr. Middleman. Dr. Middleman is sitting there waiting, either on Zoom or in that courtroom, because she was subpoenaed to testify at this hearing for the state. So I'm over here thinking, oh my God, the fucking state did a power play bluff, subpoenaed her. Okay. If I'm going off of my hunch that holy shit, that would have thought in the back of the minds of, Ann Taylor and her team, well, fuck it. it couldn't have been Othram then that was the fucking lab. I mean, you're really going to bring them in here and have them testify? Like, what are they about to testify to, right? Because they were listed as the state's witness. So here, Ann Taylor's thinking that the state's going to call Dr. Middleman. They never fucking call her. And then when I'm replaying this all in my head and redoing all of this, I'm like, holy shit, the fucking state pulled the biggest bluff ever by having Dr. Middleman there, subpoenaed under them. Or, and was it a way to say like, well, hey, Anne will think that she is going to be able to, question you or whatever, but we're never going to question you. We're not going to call you to the stand. So then when Ann Taylor would say, oh, wait, hold on, we want to call her now. After we say we have no more witnesses. You guys get what I'm saying? So here I'm going to show you how this, so Othram was in the completely wrong branch. All right. And over here, Othram is talking about how they have the state-of-the-art everything. Okay. And so I want to go back to this when this gets read here because this is amazing. The answer to that question was right. So that was one. There were several lines of evidence. That was one of them that stood out to me early on that they had uploaded through the lay person portal of GEDmatch. So then I said to myself, well, wait a second. What if the FBI was at the same time the FBI goes to, so if Idaho State Police, okay, let me back up. Idaho State Police come to the Middlemans who already have a relationship with the FBI, okay? And here, Idaho State Police are like, hey, we have that bid contract that you guys got in 2021. We need you guys. We haven't exhausted all of our, avenues to be investigating, but we're going to go ahead and do IGG, okay? And we need you guys to stay within the, obviously the interim policy, blah, blah, blah. So they're working this case and they have to work it legit, right? For Idaho. Well, who's to say that somebody from Othram with this personal relationship that they have with the FBI, okay, that Othram goes ahead on their own is doing whatever the fuck they want to then give a tip to, or hey, they're going to call up this person in the FBI, say like, hey, we figured it out who the person is. But we did it the way that we've done other cases with you. Not the way that they're being asked for us to do this. So what can we do here? So they're working, they have to stay within the bounds, okay? Yes, I see. You guys see what I'm talking about? Like, they're staying within the bounds of, hey, this is what we have to do for the Idaho State Police. We can't go outside of this. But who is to say that these people wouldn't do it on their fucking own? Okay. And what type of people would do it? Really, really competitive people. I got to be the best. We're the best. Okay. We're the best. Because according to the actual work, when you do it legit, and you can't go into these databases and you can't violate the policy, right? And just go fucking rogue and all this crazy shit. You're just like everybody else, right? There's no state of the art this. There's no writing in these newspapers and saying how the state is using and law enforcement has outdated equipment. I mean, that's what's in this article. Outdated equipment. But really, all that changed here wasn't the outdated equipment, right? It was you just used all these other databases, which means you have all these other options to have matches. So right here, though, she says, right, so that was one. There was several other lines of evidence. That was one of them that stood out to me early on, that they had uploaded through the layperson portal of GEDmatch so that they could see all the people that were opted out. There were a couple of other matches. One of them was actually 250 centimorgans, which is something we get excited about in genealogy. Okay? Which is something we get excited about in genealogy. And one of them was, I think, was closer to 70 that were not in the Othram report. If Othram had seen the one who shared 250 centimorgans, that would have been in their report. Like, their genealogists are good. So, Leah Larkin's saying that we know who their genealogists are at Othram. Like, Kristen's good. Her team, her little 4 people, they're good, right? Othram would have been pumped about being able to see 250 centimorgans. Okay, they wouldn't have missed that. Like, their genealogists are good. They know what they're doing. They would not have ignored a 250 centimorgan match. And based on those other 2 matches, at that point, I was pretty sure they had gone into the MyHeritage database. Question. While you were reviewing this information so you could learn and try to figure out what happened here, did you have any ability to call anybody from the FBI and say, hey, what is going on? Answer, I don't know who did the genealogy work at the FBI. Why is that? Answer, it's not in the information that we received. Question, is that the part that was redacted? And then that's when she says, I don't know if it was redacted, but it was, yep. But other than that, I have no idea who did the genealogy work at the FBI. Question, are there any other ways, the FBI went where they were not supposed to go? Well, answer, there was one piece of information in the discovery material that I did review. I believe we asked them to turn over the match lists, and that's when we talked about the 20,000 people, right? And the next question was, well, about the databases they went in the match list, and she's like, yeah, right. So we've talked about that. You see in the match list, we talked about the fact that you can download blah, 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 right? Then here. Okay. Question. And did you testify at a motion to compel hearing to try to get this information so that we could tell and confirm what you believed about the FBI going into a non-allowed database? You guys thought that it was just about, okay, they went into a non-allowed database. Whoever the FBI used, right? Do you know how much worse it looks when the lab and the genealogist that would have done that would have been Othram? Who just did it, following the rules, supposedly? And the answer was, now ask yourself this, why would the FBI work with Othram if they, wouldn't be down to do things the way that the FBI wants to do things? Why would the FBI contract with Othram down the road after this whole case happens and basically give them like a ton of business? If reality was that Othram couldn't even fucking figure this out, we had to go to our other genealogist over here, and they're the ones that did it. But Othram, fuck shit, they were in the wrong goddamn branch. The FBI is going to go source their business to them? Come on, you guys. You're going to source your business where you can fucking, we need that like-minded motherfuckers. Question. And do you know if sometime after that we received confirmation that they did? Answer. We did finally get a letter from the FBI in which, so we specifically asked to know which of the matches were in which of the databases, and they did not tell us that. But they did give us a list of the databases they had uploaded to, and it included Family Tree DNA, GEDmatch Pro, Those are the two databases they're allowed to use. But it also listed GEDmatch, not GEDmatch Pro, but GEDmatch. They're not allowed to go into the regular GEDmatch portal. And then finally, they admitted they had uploaded to MyHeritage. Now, I thought about this for a while over the past couple days, like a long time I thought about that. Hey, let's give them this. Okay, we're going to redact who did it. We're going to redact what lab did it. But we're going to tell them they did this, right? We didn't use any of it in the probable cause affidavit, so we're golden there. Okay? Even though this is what led to them ever truly having probable cause, because they lied actually in the probable cause. But we're going to go ahead and give them these two bones, okay? But we're not going to reveal. I mean, at that point, why would you not think about this? If you're going to admit that you went into two databases that you were not supposed to, then why aren't you just admitting what lab and what people worked on it, right? Think about it. Think about it. You're already admitting to the wrongdoing. You're already admitting. So in this, with this Q&A, it's like, did we finally get, yep, we finally got this letter from the FBI. So we specifically asked to know which of the matches were in which of the databases. And they did not tell us that. But they did give us a list of the databases that they had uploaded to. And it included the ones that you're allowed to. And then it said, but it also listed GEDmatch. They're not allowed to go into that one. And then they finally admitted to the fact that they had uploaded into MyHeritage. Why wouldn't the FBI turn over what lab did it? The mystery lab. Because if it's fucking Othram, and if it's these two, and it's Kristen, I mean, do you have, think about that. You want to talk about ethical? You want to talk about unethical? Woo! You want to talk about other cases? Now think about how in the fuck did they get that to double in size? What did they do? Right? So Miss Taylor says, Your Honor, I am at D26 and I can pass this copy to the court. I would ask that it would be shown to the witness first. What's the red number on it? Your Honor, the red number is 999. Notice of an in-camera submission. Yes. All right. Go ahead. Dr. Larkin, will you thumb through that? It's toward the back page. Okay. Do you recognize that? Yes. The second to last page, it says, below are the genealogy services utilized by the FBI. And what does it tell you? It says Family Tree DNA, GEDmatch Pro, GEDmatch, and MyHeritage. Question. Thank you. Ms. Taylor says, would Your Honor like a copy? The court. I think it's part of the record you submitted, so I have a copy. Ms. Taylor says, okay, thank you. Give me just 1 minute to check with my team. I do have another question. All right, go ahead. She asked her about Prometheus, and she's like, what is Prometheus? Prometheus is a third-party site, so it's not part of Ancestry, not part of MyHeritage. Actually, MyHeritage owns it now. It's a site where you can take the SNP profile that you get from any of the companies and upload it to the site, and it will basically look for medically informative SNPs in your profile, and it will do reports on them. I think it's like, I don't know, it's like a normal fee, like $12 or something. And it will do a report of all of the SNPs that you have in your profile. Question. If you had my SNP, you could do that and find out. Yes, I could do it on, if someone has done a genealogy test for $12, I can put it into the Prometheus system and get trait reports and health reports. This is where she was going with to say, if these people have the fucking audacity to do this, right? Why wouldn't they go and do this? How extensive is that information you could get? It's pretty comprehensive. I mean, you will get reams and reams of reports. I should say that some, how do I put this? There is a lot of traits that are controlled by multiple genes and blah, blah, blah. So remember all that stuff? And then she's like, okay. And for only $12, huh? $12. She says, yeah, thank you. It's all my questions. Cross-examination. And cross-examination was stupid. Redirect, no. Then the state, then want to point out one last, okay. So they got the DNA November 22nd, I believe. And when were they notified to stop? I believe the official notification was on December 10th, if I remember correctly. So when they came back to you with some recommendations, where was that in relation to the stop work? Probably early in December, I'm guessing. The actual work, the lab work. So this is what proved to me and should have proved to the world that they were required to do lab work, which means if they got the goods dropped off on November 22nd and they had to do lab work, that would have taken 1 week to 2 weeks at minimum to do the lab work. So you're looking at November 22nd to November 29th, then November 29th to December 6th. That's just the lab work. Then the genealogists are going to start their work. Okay. And it's like you ended Othram by the 10th. They fucking just were just, they weren't doing it. I mean, what? And so why all of this matters is when you go back to Officer Payne. And when was the first time you heard Brian Kohlberger's name? Officer Payne says, the first time I heard Brian Kohlberger's name was December 19th, 2022. And what was that a result of? That was a result of investigative genetic genealogy. That was being undertaken by the FBI. We had a phone call that evening, right? What was your role? I was assigned lead detective after the first 24 hours. And before that, Mr. Kohlberger was not on your radar, right? No, ma'am. Before December 19th, was the FBI CAS team member co-located? Yes. How long had he been co-located? So trying to eliminate all these ways of like, you guys did not hear of Brian Kohlberger until December 19th, and it was all because of investigative genetic genealogy, right? Right. So then she's asking, who was at these meetings? What did you have in the probable cause affidavit until the point of when you heard Brian Kohlberger's name? What did you have? And it was nothing. And then she says, with those references in mind and keeping December 19th in mind, which of those cameras were your focus before you learned of Brian Kohlberger's names or his name? He says, I would say all of them were important before that. And she's like, well, and it was later that other cameras became important. Is that right? And what she's getting at is the WSU cameras. And then he's like, well, those were the main ones that we relied upon for vehicles in particular, is those ones, which none of those were the WSU cameras. So that would be all of the tail end of the whole probable cause, where everyone's like, oh, then they see him driving in from, Genesee or whatever the fuck they're talking about. Because all of the probable cause is a fucking lie. It does not mean that Brian Kohlberger is not guilty, guys. They just didn't have probable cause to arrest him. They made it all up because they could never fucking put down. Just like I kept asking, well, they've used it in so many other cases that they used IgG in probable cause. Why couldn't they hear? Because it would have all fucked. So they had to lie about how they got to him. And then there's just going to always be the discussion is it okay to hey, we need to get this murder off the streets. And that's when you're going to have a split decision of people saying the ends justifies the means. And no, you're never going to violate our rights to fucking do that. So you're going to have two parties. But I don't care what you believe in or what you think. It's what's our laws. And it's, but this is also how innocent people go away. Did you have any role in deciding to pursue investigative genetic genealogy to Officer Payne? And he says, yes, ma'am. It was a collaborative decision amongst the command team to go that route. But yes, I was part of that. And I'm just shocked that she didn't say, well, did you exhaust all other methods? Because you know that that's when you're only supposed to go to investigative genetic genealogy. You understand? But she didn't ask that next as the question. It was, were you part of the discussion during the process of the identification? Yes, ma'am. Were you aware that Othram Laboratories began the work on the investigative genetic genealogy? He says yes. What kind of information did you receive from Othram Laboratories? Ready for this? I do not remember. You want to know why he has to answer that way? Because what kinds of information did you receive from Othram Laboratories? I don't remember what was received from Othram directly. I knew that they were conducting their specific type of work. I don't remember exactly what they provided to us. Did you receive some documents from them? Answer. Yes, ma'am. Question. Okay. Do you know how many documents you received from them? Answer. I don't. Question. Was it one time or more than one time? Where do you think she's heading with that? Was it one time or more than one time? If they only provided the preliminary report, right, it should just have been once, right? It should just be so easy. One time. We asked them to cease doing the work, right, on December 10th, and then they gave us, right? So, okay, do you know how many documents you received from them? I do not. Was it one time or more than one time? Anne is trying to figure this out. She is trying to see if Othram is the fucking FBI lab. In my opinion. And then his answer was, I don't remember. Was it one time or more than one time? I don't remember. Not that I don't know. I don't remember. Were you part of the discussion to take the work from Othram and go to the FBI? And what Ann Taylor is doing here is she's getting all of these people all roped in on, if we're waiting to do this big reveal that Othram was the FBI's lab, there is no fucking way that y'all didn't know about this. If y'all were working on this together, that you don't know who the FBI used. Well, why would they tell you? Oh, nothing to see here. Don't worry. Don't ask these questions. That way you can't get, like, if you're ever asked, I don't know. I wasn't privy to that. Were you part of the decision to take the work from Othram and go to the FBI? He says, yes, ma'am. I was part of that decision. Wow, okay. Well, why was that decision made, Ann says. He says, from my understanding, granted, this is my first encounter with investigative genetic genealogy. So again, as a collaborative discussion, we decided that because, ready for this? This is how you know it's a fucking lie. Ready? We decided that because the Idaho State Police lab and Othram had essentially exhausted their resources. Othram, and is because the Idaho State Police lab and Othram, notice how he says this, ready? So again, as a collaborative discussion, we decided that because the Idaho State Police lab and Othram, their relationship, because of them, the Idaho State Police lab and Othram had essentially exhausted their resources. This is how I understood it. That we would move to the FBI because they had more resources available to pursue this particular avenue. They had more resources available to pursue this particular avenue. What type of fucking resources is the only thing that you could think about it. And she's like, do you know what more resources? The next question was, do you know what more resources the FBI had? Ready? Now, after I've explained all of this stuff in the past couple lives, now listening and rereading this, you should be like, holy shit, it's right in front of us. Here's the question. Do you know what more resources the FBI had? Answer. The only thing I'm privy to was that they had more databases that they could compare the sample to. That was the extent of my knowledge. What? Yeah, more databases. Illegal data. Well, so the FBI told you they were going to violate, right? And she says, do you have familiarity with the databases and the rules that apply to those? No. No, ma'am. I'm just a fucking tart over here. Woo! Nope. They just told me this and I'm like, okay, sounds great. I'm in. She says, I'll save those questions. What was your communication with the FBI about the IGG? Answer. So our communications were just via telephone. The sample was sent to the FBI. I don't remember the date it was given over to them. But after that, there was very few conversations. And if they happened at all, they were just telephone, advising us that the process was still in the works and they would let us know when or if they had anything of interest for us. Do you know what files or documents went to the FBI from Othram, right? Because he just said right here, the sample was sent to the FBI. Do you know what files or documents went to the FBI from Othram? And now the reason that she's asking the lead investigator this is because based on the DOJ policy, the lead investigating agency, okay, Moscow Police Department, this is this person, the amount of paperwork that would have that man's name on it to be able to do all this stuff and to upload and do everything legit, like Payne and the prosecutor 100% are involved in this nonstop. You guys, you don't understand. Like all of this should exist in this paper trail. He says, I do not remember. I do not remember. Did you receive documents from the FBI in relation to IGG? Ann says, yeah. I believe after the fact, after we received Kohlberger's name, we did receive documents, but I don't remember what they were. Right? Now, question. When they brought up the Idaho State Police lab manager, God, she was so close. She was so close. Okay. Question. Ann Taylor knew that Othram was not an accredited lab, by the way, at the time when she's asking this, because they didn't become accredited until 2024. So she says, does Idaho State Police Forensic Lab validate their equipment? Yes, we do. Is that important to you guys to use an accredited laboratory? Yes, that's important part because, blah, blah, blah. Well, did Othram do that? In this case, so the answer, in this case, I believe they gave us a report or what was identified as a preliminary report. The contract specifies that they would keep any data or other things associated with that. For our purposes, we were most concerned that data or anything else not be released to any other parties. And so our concern was more about the data security, data privacy. And so in this case, I don't know if they have other data or other records that they have kept, that they have retained. We have asked them as part of the termination in this case of our work that they would preserve those things, or that they would communicate with both of the, the prosecutor's office and the Moscow Police Department if any of that information was to be disposed of or whatnot. Anne says, okay, so keep it or tell somebody before you get rid of it, right? Yeah, our specification was that it stopped our process with them. Ready? Our specification was that it stopped our process with them. That we, Idaho State Police, we were no longer in a contractual obligation with them on this case. Essentially, we were transferring ownership of anything on this case between them and Moscow Police Department and the prosecutor's office. Question. The report that you ended up receiving from them, are you aware that that report doesn't provide details of how they did their work? Answer. I have seen the report. Yes, I have seen what was in the report. Question. Would you agree that what's in the report is far different than what the Idaho State Police Forensics Lab produces by way of notes and photographs in connection with its work? We were not provided with analytical notes. We were not provided with data, to my knowledge. We were provided with what was identified to me as a preliminary report, which contained some of their genealogical work on the case and other things, such as potential nationalities. Question, is that different than what you produce when you produce a report at your lab? It's hard for me to answer that. And then she gets him with, when she asks, when you say the interim policy, are you referring to the Department of Justice interim policy? Yes. So you told them that they were supposed to be following that, correct? Absolutely. That's our understanding. Then she says, because she's trying to get to the bottom of the DNA samples itself, the DNA sample was delivered by Moscow Police Department in person to them at Othram Labs. She says, did you have any role in that part? I did. What did you do? I accompanied the officer from Boise down to Houston and down to the Othram laboratory, which had been in Woodlands. I didn't have possession of the sample, but I was with the investigator that did. He's importantly saying that because that he does not want anything to do with this chain of custody. Question, after that sample was delivered, did you have communications with Othram further? Yes, he says. What were those? So I had communications to my memory with them about what type of analysis we were asking them to do. Also, what type of searching. I remember they asked specifically for consent to do certain types of searching. We had to authorize things through memos and whatnot of them doing certain searching. Specifically, I believe it was family tree DNA that they needed an authorization for. And that would be yes. It's a $700 payment, by the way. An upload of terms of search DNA sample, the data file, the form that the agency's name on it, the case type, if it was like a rape case, if it was whatever the type of the case that it was, the number of pages, a letterhead from the agency authorizing this company, Othram, to upload data file, all of this shit. And it takes 3 to 5 fucking days to do that. 3 to 5 days. Because it gets uploaded into the database and it takes that long. Okay. So when you want to start breaking down how much time it takes to do certain things, and that would have been then after the 2 weeks of the lab work, okay, the wet work. But here's where it gets interesting. We had to authorize things, those memos, everything I just said. I remember having significant discussions with them about YSTR testing and if or how that would be accomplished. Now, I've done significant work on this, and this makes absolutely no sense to the people that I've talked to, that there would have been significant talks about this STR. There's also ways to manipulate the data file, the text data, on how it is edited, and we'll get into that later. So Ann Taylor says, why did you want Authorham to do YSTR testing? Answer. So the reason for YST, they didn't ask the reason. So the reason for YSTR testing, which is, again, the father, surname, fucking lineager, okay? Testing is to utilize different investigative databases that might be out there. I don't believe in this case we ever did YSTR testing. Why would you have significant talks about it? Okay. A lot of the discussion was around preservation of the sample. What do you need to preserve if you have it in CODIS? What are you preserving here? A lot of the discussion was around preservation of the sample. Okay. Or as much of the sample we could preserve. And so our recommendation to them was to not proceed with that type of testing at this time, to kind of see where we were able to go with the traditional S&P testing with the whole genome sequencing. And then we would maybe potentially revisit YSTR testing. Well, guess what? You can pull out YSTR in whole genome sequencing. So what the fuck are you talking about? This makes no sense to anybody with a brain in that field, just so you know. I do remember some discussion with David Middleman at Authorham about if they were able to bootstrap some of the whole genome sequencing in order to develop a Y profile that could be searchable from the database that they had already developed, instead of using additional sample to specifically develop a YSTR profile or any kind of Y profile. And then I thought to myself, what type of databases does Authorham have access to that they're so all about this YSTR, like that they want to go daddy way? Okay. And the answer was like, tell me about this. What does that mean, bootstrapping? Take me back. They have this DNA sample, and then have they done those steps to get to their S&P before you want bootstrapping done? Or at what stage are you talking about? Right? Essentially, it was our understanding that they were in the process of, or had already obtained, a whole genome sequencing profile. And so our question to them was, is there a way to develop a YSTR profile from the genetic information that you already have through other methods of testing? And it's like, and that's what you mean by bootstrap? Add a different kind of analysis? Correct. Why would you want to do that? Again, to see if there was a potential to search a wide databases that might be available out there to identify genetic lineages. And that's where I said, exactly, what the fuck? But if you listen to the beginning part of when he's explaining this, it's Authorham wanted to know if we could do this. Not, they weren't calling him up and being like, hey, can we do this? So, Anne says, did Authorham bootstrap and get their YSTR for you? To my knowledge, they never did anything with YSTR testing. And to my recollection, with my discussions with David, that wasn't possible with the data that he had at that point. Anne's like, it was impossible? Answer, that is what not possible. Yeah, correct. Yeah. Thank you. I do not believe that was attempted. Again, I'm not familiar with the technology that he would have had to use to do such a thing. So I'm not aware if that is even possible. If the technology didn't exist, I just don't know. Anne says, okay. At some point, did Authorham talk to you about the work that they were doing? Yeah. And did they have a recommendation? Now, this just blows my mind. They did have a recommendation. They had at least one recommendation that I remember. When was that conversation? Everyone, I don't know. I don't remember exactly when that conversation had happened. And Anne's like, well, let's put it in between. Well, when did they get the DNA to start with? Well, they got the DNA November 22nd. And that's why I said, okay. So I broke this down with somebody that I believe is knowledgeable. 2 weeks, right? So December 5th, 6th, out of the lab work, wet work. Then you're getting it into the hands of the genealogist from Othram by December 5th or 6th, right? And you're uploading this, and yeah, then that's going to take 3 to 5 days for you to be able to upload and for your profile to exist and to go through all the paperwork and fill it out and pay. And it's a law enforcement kit. It's like, okay. And there's a receipt of all that. So you're looking at add 3 to 5 days onto the 5th or the 6th, right? And that's where you're getting, right at that 10th, December 10th. December 10th that's when even it would have just been like uploaded and like available to be seen. So check this out. So Anne says, so they got the DNA November 22nd, I believe, right? And when were they notified to stop? Well, December 10th. The FBI has their own labs, but not for this. The FBI uses third parties. And usually it's good to use third parties because science is supposed to be fucking just science. And in fact, that's how I'm going to end tonight's live, which is you guys need to go and read the Intercept forensic experts challenge the FBI. So the FBI tried to censor their conference, February 6, 2025. An FBI official urged the American Academy of Forensic Sciences to cancel a conference presentation titled Taking on the FBI. This is fucking unreal. What's in this? And they go at Tiffany Roy because she was outing the bullshit. So the answer was, I believe the official notification was on December 10th, if I remember correctly. So when they came back to you with some recommendations, where was that in relation to the stop work, right? Ready for this part? Well, it was probably early in December. I'm guessing. The actual work, the laboratory, what I would call the wet work in the laboratory, would be the first couple of weeks. That's where I'm getting the first couple of weeks from. So November 22nd, you're adding on 2 weeks for the wet work. Okay? That means that they did extraction. They extracted the shit. He's like, that would be the first couple of weeks probably before they would have turned it over to a genealogist to be searching in the databases and those sorts of things. Absolutely fucking right. Yeah. And then Anne says, okay, to make sure I'm with you, wet work means DNA sample to where we get to the whole genome sequencing, and then where we get to an SMP. I know I'm skipping steps, but yeah, correct. The lab work. So anything that would be done in the physical laboratory, handling the sample, putting it into the tubes, adding liquids, things of that nature that would be done in the laboratory, sequencing on an instrument, that would all have been done in the first week or several weeks. Okay. So after that, they have a recommendation for you? Correct. Well, what's the recommendation to you? Their recommendation, to my memory, to my recall, was that they had several individuals that had the potential to be of interest in this investigation. They asked us if, to further their family tree building, if we could go and get in contact with these individuals. The fuck? And this is where Leah Larkin's like, if that's where they're at, they're nowhere close. Okay? And then to poof, that the FBI, by the time you would have had to transfer everything, get it over there, and then just poof, we got the name Ryan Kober by December 19th, right? And that's what I'm just like, come on. And here, everybody's always thought that there was this parallel investigation. That's what I thought. Until you read it. And what it is like, no, holy shit. Othram was the fucking FBI lab too. They were their genealogists and they were the FBI lab. And we at some point, and I don't remember when exactly, we had asked our investigator, Detective Vicky Gooch with the Idaho State Police, to reach out to one of the brothers. Remember, they didn't believe her? Okay, tell me about this big meeting. It sounds like there's like this big meeting that happens. I love when Ann says that. Like, yeah, tell me about this. Well, there was just a meeting to my knowledge, and I don't remember exactly when, but probably the morning of December 10th when we had a meeting, just like, on the phone with representatives from Moscow Police Department. I believe the FBI had representatives on the phone call as well. Idaho State Police, I believe, myself, ISP Legal Counsel, we were just all on the phone. The colonel of the state police, oh, fucking Willis was on the call too? Okay, great. So all of these people are on the phone. What happened on that phone call, says Ann? Well, in that phone call, we were asked to turn over any kind of investigative records that we had, any kind of information that we had to the FBI team. They provided me with an email address to be able to provide what they were requesting from us, which was, to my memory, it was the two. And then he's like, the login information, essentially. What's the two? It was the two. And then he stops himself. It was the two. What was it? The two samples? What two? He's like, to my memory, it was the two. Oh, the login information, essentially. And it might have been other things I'm not aware of, like packets and things I'm not aware of, like the technical terms. But basically, they were asking us to provide that information to the FBI investigator. What the fuck does the Idaho State Police have? Who runs this? What do you do? Wouldn't Othram be the one with everything? What are you talking about? Provide you what? Huh? Like, that doesn't make any sense. But it was the two. The login information. And then she's like, did you do that? Well, yes. Do you know what you provided to the FBI investigator? Why isn't Ann saying, who the fuck, what is the email that you sent this to? Who did you send this to? What did you send them? Well, do you know what you provided? And then it says, this is the answer, which does not make any sense. Listen to the language. If somebody was to ask me a question, right? Do you know what you provided to the FBI? Here's this man's answer, who is with the Idaho State Police. Matt Gamet is the Idaho State Police lab manager, whatever. So what we asked for to be provided were the two databases searches or information so that those could be independently searched. And we also asked them to cooperate and provide any information that they needed to be able to further the investigation. Excuse me? Again, the question was, do you know what you provided to the FBI? Answer. So what we asked for to be provided were the two database searches or information so that those could be independently searched. And we also asked them to cooperate and provide any information that they needed to be able to further investigate. What? What? When you say two databases, do you mean like the two, genetic genealogy databases that allow law enforcement to search? Yes, to my knowledge. Well, they would just upload and see it themselves. What? Yes, to my knowledge, these samples were searched in two databases that allowed searching for law enforcement. Do you know? Okay. Okay. Question. Idaho State Police Forensics Lab. Direction to Othram was to look only in the databases that allowed law enforcement search. Is that right? Our direction to them was to follow the interim policy per contract with them. And any other communications we would have had with them would be to follow the interim policy. Ann Sarah says, does that mean, yes, you expected them to only search the allowed databases? Othram. I believe that is what that would have been communicated. That's our understanding of what that interim policy means, is they would search those databases that are allowed to be searched. Question. And this is where everybody can take it and shove it. Question. After Othram turns over whatever they turn over to the FBI and you get the report and they get paid, is that the end of it with Othram for this case? This is your money shot. This is Ann Taylor's money shot to this motherfucker. This is a simple yes or no. Is this the end of it with Othram for this case? This should tell every fucking person across the globe. The answer. So they provided to us a report after we had asked them to turn over all of the information to the investigating agency and to the FBI. They provided us with what was identified as a preliminary report. I believe they titled it that way because it was not a final report. The testing, ... We had asked them to terminate the testing, but they were not at a final result of a name to produce to us, an investigative lead to provide to us. Wouldn't the answer have been, yeah, Othram would be done? But that can't be the answer, right? Because you have to answer it this way because you know Othram wasn't done. Because what? Were they the FBI lab? Question. Why was the decision made for the FBI to take this over and not let Othram finish? Think about this, right? Here's Othram going out on every fucking platform since 2021. I mean, they're this fucking amazing lab, has better than everything. They can fucking solve shit that nobody else can because they have cutting edge, all this crap, right? You just gave it. Idaho State Police just handed it to the best of the best, right? Are you going to let them like fucking work on it? Right? No, we're just going to shut it down. Now go back to what I said about 40 minutes ago when I said, do you think it's at all possible for somebody from Othram to have communicated to their FBI friendly source to say, hey, well, the way that the Idaho State Police want us to do this, we can't give you a name. But the way that we do our things with y'all, we got your name. Here's your tip. Now, what are we supposed to do? Because they have Idaho State Police. Yeah. So here, Ann Taylor says, why was the decision made for the FBI to take this over and not let Othram finish? I don't know. I can't speak to that. Well, weren't you in the fucking meetings that you just answered 2 seconds ago? Why was the decision made for the FBI to take this over and not let Othram finish? I mean, how bad does this look for Othram? I don't know. I can't speak to that. And then Ann says, well, in that meeting, there was nothing stated about why we're going to do this? In that meeting, I don't recall specific reasons, but they had asked us to transfer everything to the FBI. Everything. What the fuck do you have? What's everything? She says, okay. Did you take a look at the two profiles, the FBI's S&P profile and Othram's S&P? Have you ever looked at those? This guy says, did we look at those or did I look at those? Did you? I did not know. Have you seen them? No. Would it surprise you to know that the FBI profile was over twice as big as Othram's? Again, I have no knowledge of what the FBI did or didn't do. I had no knowledge, or this guy panicked right there because the question was would it surprise you to know the FBI profile was over twice as big as Othram's? The answer was, again, I have no knowledge of what the FBI did or didn't do. I have no knowledge, or ... Yeah. Ann says, question, how involved were you with the FBI's process of their genetic genealogy? Answer. I was not involved other than to provide the samples, plural, to where they asked us to send those samples to. Samples. And then from that point, I was not involved in this process. Question. Have you become aware that they search databases that are not allowed to be searched by law enforcement? Pure speculation is all I know, but I have no firsthand knowledge of anything. Okay, fair enough. Thanks for that. I have a couple questions for you about some documentation. Sure. Question. The document that gave recommendations for you to call some of those 4 brothers, where is that? So I believe that was provided to us over the telephone. I don't think there was like an official report. I don't think there was an email. I think it was names provided over the phone, and then those names were eventually provided as part of that report that came several days after the conclusion of the testing. Okay, so you recognize those names from that report? Yes, those had been provided to us before. Question. The work that you were doing before trying to call one of those brothers, where did you keep your documents for that? As far as the records that, I'm sorry, I'm confused on the question. Let me ask it better. You did some research work before you and Detective Gooch made the phone calls, right? You guys were looking up these motherfuckers. Where is that fucking shit? Oh, those were paper copies, and those were just retained and then sent to Othram as part of us communicating back to them. Basically saying, this is the work we did. We're providing these back to you in case they're helpful as you continue to build out the family tree. She's like, do you still have a copy of those? Yes. Did you document your attempt to get a voluntary sample from one of the brothers? I do not believe so, no. What? Do you know if Detective Gooch, wrote a police report up for this shit? I do not. Did she provide any of her notes to you or like her investigative notes? No, not to me. I have no idea if she kept notes. Okay, did you watch her? Were she writing anything? Oh, no, I did not. We were on the telephone. So you wouldn't have been able to see that, huh? Have you seen any documentation from that December 10th meeting? No, not to my knowledge. Okay, any documentation that's come your way from the FBI's work? Not to my knowledge. Now think about this, guys. If you're going to admit that you used a fucking database that you weren't supposed to use, you admit to that. Why aren't you just saying what lab you used and what genealogist you used? Because it would end your career, right? Now, how bad would it be when you realize, and the public realize, that holy shitballs, Othram was both fucking like Idaho State Police and the FBI's lab and genealogists? Oh my God. Page 165. The bluff of a lifetime. The bluff of a lifetime. Miss Taylor says, defense, yes, Your Honor. The court says, pardon me, defense. I'm used to saying the state goes first on things. I apologize. Does the state have any witnesses? So after the defense went, because it's their motion, does the state have any witnesses? Ready? Mr. Nye stands up and says, Your Honor, no. We're not going to call Dr. Middleman. So what was Ann Taylor supposed to do there? Stand up and say, oh, well, I have some questions for Dr. Middleman since she's here. Can she take the stand? We're going to call her. This would never make it to a jury. This would never make it to a jury. A judge should have seen, wait, you did what? That would make the lab. That would. So now think about it. Let's say that I'm right. Hypothetically, let's say that I'm right. And that Othram is both. Othram never got off the case. Othram has always been on it. It was like, hey, we stopped whatever we're doing with Idaho over here, but we're the FBI's source, right? And hey guys, we went ahead and we went into all those fucking databases that we've done before. Here's the fucking shit. Here you go. And Idaho State Police were on us like, hey, you're going to have to do it this way. Don't do this. Don't do this. You know, and going about it that way, this is what the fuck we have. Which tells me, as Lana Oriani here, that when I read these articles about this state of the art this and the state of the art that, no, there's no state of the art for anything. You guys just use databases that you're not supposed to be in, and you guys are fucking selling it off to people that you have all of this shit, that you have all of this awesome technology and all of this shit that law enforcement doesn't, and that's why you're able to solve these cold cases. No, you're using databases that you're not supposed to use, and that's how you're able to do this shit. It's not because you've created state-of-the-art anything, because even the state-of-the-art shit that you created had you in the wrong motherfucking family branch. Okay? Now I did some more snooping around, and so I firmly believe that the state was bluffing the whole time when they had Dr. Middleman there and was never going to be calling her to the stand. I think that was a way to confuse the defense, right? Also, but if they have her there as a witness, then the defense isn't calling her there as a witness, and then we're just not going to call you, and then nothing fucking happens, right? Unless Ann Taylor would have stood up and said, wait, Your Honor, I was expecting them to call their witness. Since they're not going to call her, I want to call her. Then what would have happened? Well, she's not here under your subpoena. Well, I don't give a fuck if she's here under my subpoena or not. She's here. And do you want us to, can we have a break here? Do you want me to go get a subpoena? And for me to serve her with a subpoena? I mean, Ann Taylor needed to question her. So how would that have happened? I mean, don't you think it would have been really important? Because I've been saying this all along is why don't you just ask Othram all these questions? Why are we beating around any fucking bush? Why aren't they just asking Othram these questions? Why aren't they asking, okay, hey, Kristen, how are you? You know, you've done great work. You're PhD. You're awesome. You're a fucking rock star. Awesome. Perfect. Like, dude, because she's a badass. You guys should go fucking look at her Instagram page. She's fucking badass. But you're contracted here with Idaho State Police. When did you stop? Did you work for the FBI on this case? No? Okay, then go to talking about here, this upload here that says you guys uploaded it on what day, and you have SC here, and there's their email showing that this one's ours. And the other one, the other thing is that in GEDmatch will also tell you how many days a kit has been in their system. And for that kit, for the match to SC, it had been in the database for only 1 day, but Othram had uploaded it. I'm not sure exactly when, but I would say 6 to 7 to 8 days prior. So it should have not have said the kit was only 1 day old. Can you explain that to me, Kristen? When did you guys upload this kit that says, but Othram had uploaded it? When did you upload that kit? Why would you be uploading a kit if you weren't working on this case anymore? If they're able to use, like, Kristen's team needs to get in on the Delphi case. If you're able to separate all these mixtures and do all this shit, go. Delphi, go, dude, go do work on the Delphi shit. All these mixtures, go fucking see who's all this DNA belongs to at that fucking crime scene. There's all these mixtures of blood. And none of it matches fucking Richard Allen. Nobody cares about that. Fuck A. In February 6, 2025, at 9:28 a.m., The Intercept uploads an article, and it says the FBI was not pleased. There were mentions of the agency in documents. Here, I'll show you guys the article. Let's go like this. Go get this article. Forensic experts challenged the FBI, so the FBI tried to censor their conference. I went and I pulled the American Academy of Forensic Science bylaws. There ain't no fucking stone over here going unturned. This is crazy because this is taking over the fucking world of forensic science, everything with cases. And if we can't trust the people working in our labs, we are fucked. Because I think they can do whatever they want. So, anyways, this article here, go fucking get it. This is a timeline of all the shit in this case. Idaho Othram, ISP, the history of Idaho with them. 2018. Nothing was written on Kristen's Instagram to do with Othram at all. 2022, and then it goes crazy. CrimeCon, May of 2022. It was her first TV interview of 2022 in March. August 2022, NCSL speaker. August of 2022. New York Times, London Times. That was that article that I read for you guys. But then there was no posts from August of 2022 all the way until March of 2023. Then there was a big article about the Carla Walker, the Texas cheerleader. So now Tiffany Roy outed shit to do with IGG, okay? Back during this case during August of 2023. Tiffany Roy did. And here in this article, there were mentions of the agency and documents connected to an upcoming forensics conference that it deemed disparaging. So in the weeks before, President Donald Trump took office and issued an executive order barring censorship by federal government employees. The FBI set out to do just that. Okay. This is crazy. In mid-December, according to documents obtained by The Intercept, Ted Hunt, a senior policy advisor to the FBI Crime Lab. Now, Crime Lab, that has nothing to do with IGG. It's different. So when people are like, the FBI has their own fucking lab. Yeah, they do not have their own lab for this genetic genealogy because you need a genome sequencing machine. Okay, they don't have that. Okay. So Ted Hunt, a senior policy advisor to the FBI Crime Lab, approached the president of the American Academy of Forensic Sciences, the nation's premier umbrella organization for scientists, academics, and attorneys practicing, researching, and litigating forensic science issues with complaints and a demand. According to the documents, Hunt argued that the AAFS, which is what I just said, the Academy, should basically ixnay certain references to the FBI from two workshops scheduled for the organization's annual conference to be held later this month in Baltimore. One of the apparently offensive presentations was titled Taking on the FBI. Okay? This is the good shit. Taking on the FBI. Now, this is what they cite. In an email memo addressed to the AAFS Board of Directors, so this was an email addressed to the AAFS Board of Directors, the chair of the conference workshops wrote that Hunt also complained about one of the workshop presenters, a former DNA analysis turned defense expert named Tiffany Roy, who regularly challenges the work of frontline DNA practitioners working in government labs across the country, including at the FBI. Did you find it? Lana, you didn't? Lana, I didn't find Nancy Grace's interview, but found 2 to check out. iHeart Podcast 109 and an interview with authors. Yes. And second search for the Idaho mess. Okay. If you could you email me that? Mom B, that would be fabulous. Thank you so much. That helps a lot. I was like, oh my God, here's Tiffany Roy again. This is the article. This is now 2 years prior to in 2023. So this is an article in 2025. An article in 2023 that came out, The Intercept, was they're the ones that had all of this information about the fucking loophole. And guess who was talking about the loophole? Ready? Tiffany Roy. And basically saying they're all using this fucking goddamn loophole, which is the putting in databases and being able to upload certain ways and getting, then you get the matches that you shouldn't be seeing, shit like that. Okay. So it's like anybody that's challenging the FBI and their fucking bullshit practices, you guys want to claim to be all ethical, dude, just say it. Yeah, this is what we did, but it got us a fucking murder off the streets. If you want to fucking come at me, come at me. But hey, I got a murder off the streets. Okay. I got a murder off the streets. Did we lie in a probable cause affidavit? Yep, we fucking sure did. That's all that happened here. And you just have to ask yourself, well, do you think it's right or wrong to violate people's rights? Do you think it's, because when I say violate people's rights, that part came when you totally made up a probable cause affidavit. It was totally made up. It is bad. So I'm not sitting here saying that Brian Kober is fucking innocent. I'm not sitting here going hard for some fucking killer. Okay. I'm sitting here just show you guys want the truth. This is the truth. It's black and white. Fuck. If the AAFS failed to take action, sources told The Intercept, Hunt told the Academy brass that the FBI, whose forensic leaders and frontline practitioners regularly attend this gathering, would boycott the organization's famed annual meeting. Thank you. You are going much deeper, and it is wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, and trying to just show the the facts surrounding this all. Like, none of this should be cloaked in secrecy, guys. But truth be told, at the end of the day, the only way that they were getting this man is if they did it this way. Is if they violated the interim policy, right? And then lied in a probable cause affidavit. Hunt did not respond to a request for comment. In a statement, the FBI said that the agency, quote unquote, did not make any threats nor consequences, and that it did not seek to censure any speaker nor have them deplatformed. The FBI said that it merely, remember, it's just a tip, right? The FBI said that it merely, quote unquote, brought to the attention, merely a tip. The FBI said it merely, quote unquote, brought to the attention of the AAFS material mentioning the FBI that, quote unquote, seemingly violated AAFS own bylaws. Specifically, the agency pointed to a section of the Academy's Code of Ethics and Conduct that states that no member or affiliate of the Academy, quote unquote, shall issue public statements that appear to represent the position of the Academy without first obtaining permission from the AAFS board. What the fuck? Like, do you see what lies this is? if there's a presenter for a workshop and whatever the fuck they're going to be presenting, how does that represent the academy? And exactly what the Intercept writes right here is that it is hard to see, however, how that section could apply to the conference materials. The academy routinely issues disclaimers about the content of conference presenters as not necessarily representing the academy itself. Moreover, the FBI statement elated the first section of the Code of Ethics and Conduct, which says that every member of the academy shall refrain from exercising professional or personal conduct adverse to the best interests and objectives of the academy, including to quote unquote improve the practice, alleviate the standards, and advance the cause of the forensic sciences. And so they're saying that it would be a violation of this to have these people speak. Okay. And D. And I'm over here like, the fuck? No, it wouldn't. The workshops at issue had been fully vetted. This is what's crazy. The workshops at issue had been fully vetted. That's why I want to talk to Tiffany Roy. Had been fully vetted by the academy as part of its rigorous conference program acceptance process. And the relevant details already published online. But documents obtained by the Intercept reveal that the AAFS board of directors, made up of influential members of the forensic science and legal communities, agreed that their organization should ask the presenters to scrub the offending references to the FBI, and that if the presenters fail to do so, that their workshops should be canceled. You guys, the title of the workshop that they were like, what the fuck? You guys, taking on the FBI. That is what this is, taking on the FBI. At least 2 members of the academy leadership went so far as to suggest that the organization should apologize to the FBI for offending it. What a bunch of fucking cupcake bitch snowflake motherfuckers. This is insanity. You are going up against the FBI and all the resources and the myriad of resources that they have, right? When they're just being able to have all this fucking federal funding and just spend godly amounts of money to do whatever the fuck they want, right? One opined that he didn't think Roy, a full member of the academy, should be allowed to present at all. News of the incident spread quickly among AAFS's large but tight-knit community. Some suggested parallels to Trump's promises of retribution for his and his administration's perceived enemies. Dude, they're making this look at this shit. Trump's all over this shit. The incident has also raised concerns that the academy, whose vision and mission are to quote unquote promote justice for all and to quote unquote alleviate the standards and advance the cause of forensic sciences, would seemingly abandon its critical focus in favor of a position of failure to the FBI. Just whoop, here it is. Like whatever the FBI, oh, hey. The AAFS's current president, he's a psychiatrist, Christopher Thompson, did not respond to the Intercept's repeated request for comment. What date is this document, you asked? That's a great question. Ready? Just right before their big conference. It was February 6th. Oh, can you not see that? 2025, February 6th. 2025. Just recently. Within the world of forensic science, the FBI's laboratory has enjoyed an elevated status as a premier facility, even though it has simultaneously endured criticism, as past practices in some forensic disciplines have been able to in the criminal legal system In short, the FBI lab is not immune to the issues that have long plagued forensic science writ large. Okay. To date, false or misleading forensic evidence has been implicated in nearly 30% of the nation's wrongful convictions. And the FBI would not be immune to that. Wow. Yes, this year. Yes, this is fucking, yeah. Every February they have their big blowout meeting and blah, blah, blah. So 30%, okay, 30% of the nation's wrongful convictions is false or misleading forensic evidence. 30%. Many consider standard forensic practices like fingerprint examinations, ballistics, and tool marks comparisons, or blood pattern analysis to be foolproof. But these practices were developed by law enforcement agencies for law enforcement and not by scientists, first subjecting them to standard, rigorous testing processes designed to ensure they stand on a solid scientific foundation. Think about that. That's why I'm like, we want third-party independent labs around, you guys. You want that. But not if they're creating monopolies with the fucking FBI or the government on any fucking level. All these relationships, like, yep, we'll do whatever you want, and I'm getting all this business. And guess what? Otham just fucking opened up a UK fucking branch. What? Like, that was the dirty little open secret of forensics in the criminal legal system until 2009, when a groundbreaking report from the National Academy of Science laid it bare. With the exception of standard DNA analysis, the report read, "No forensic method has been rigorously shown to have the capacity to consistently and with a high degree of certainty demonstrate a connection between evidence and a specific individual or source." Australia as well, says Carly. Yep. They were just there. These criticisms were reiterated even more bluntly in a 2016 report from the President's Council of Advisors of Science and Technology, or PCAST, which concluded that so-called pattern matching practices, where an analysis examines a piece of evidence, say a bloody fingerprint found at a crime scene, and tries to match it to a sample from a suspect, were lacking significant scientific foundation. In quotes, without appropriate estimates of accuracy, an examiner's statement that two samples are similar or even distinguishable is scientifically meaningless. It has no probative value and considerable potential for prejudicial impact. And this is what I've been screaming from the rooftops. That's exactly what this shit is. It's like, think about jurors. You're being told something by somebody with this long ass CV, right? And oh my God, it's got to be like this fucking junk science that we call. "10 years after a landmark study blew the whistle on junk science, the fight over forensics rages on. These and other brutal assessments of long-standing forensic practices hit the community hard. Some practitioners took the findings to heart and quickly set themselves on a path to shore up the foundation of their disciplines. Still, others dug in or pushed back, including in the Department of Justice. Shortly after the PCAST report was released, Loretta Lynch, who served as an attorney general during Obama's second term as president, publicly dismissed the concerns raised and recommendations outlined in the report. A former frontline prosecutor in Kansas City, Missouri, Hunt, served on the National Commission of Forensic Science, where he voted against even modest reforms like reining in language that analysis use in their reports and court testimony to ensure they aren't overstating the science or the significance of their findings. You guys remember this shit, man? This is so important. This is so important. Why would you vote against that if you were a president? Like, where he voted against even modest reforms like reining in the language that analysts use in their reports and court testimony to ensure that they aren't overstating the science or the significance of their findings. After assuming office in 2017, the first Trump administration essentially shuttered the NCFS, and instead Hunt was installed as the head of its successor, the vaguely named Forensic Science Working Group. So Hunt has remained inside the Justice Department since then. While he occasionally defended the forensics status quo quite staunchly during Trump's first presidency, during Biden's first term in office, he seemed to maintain a much lower profile, at least until the administration's waning days when he approached AAFS leadership about squelching negative mention of the FBI in conference materials. There are 2 workshops that have apparently offended the oddly sensitive FBI. Lana, this has nothing to do about that, JH, but thank you so much for coming, Again, this all helps. This isn't what this is about. Read the fucking title. Fuck, we're over here talking about ethics, code of ethics and conduct. And you're over there fucking jerking off to Brian Colbert, JH. God, JH, why are you coming in here jizzing over Brian Colbert? You little jizz master. All you fucking jizzers for Brian Colbert. This isn't even about him. This case has never been about Brian Colbert. That's the big picture, the much larger issue, y'all. But yeah, there's apparently that the FBI is really upset about workshop number 19, which is titled Unmasking the Evidence, How Defense Experts Prevent Wrongful Convictions, right? According to the workshop description, the point of the 4-hour session is to highlight the challenges faced by legal professionals who may lack the scientific background needed to assess forensic evidence accurately, and to highlight the quote-unquote critical role that defense experts play in preventing wrongful convictions by scrutinizing the work of the prosecution's forensic experts. Okay? And I just believe if the judges were if the judges didn't think that they were arms of the prosecution, so much would change. Within that workshop was a scheduled 45-minute talk titled Taking on the FBI. Among the quote-unquote educational objectives outlined by the workshop organizers was to explore the impact of prestigious institutions like the Federal Bureau of Investigation on perceptions of evidence credibility. The second offending presentation involving forensic document examination, and it was known as Workshop 25, was titled Death of an Expert Witness, Discrediting Document Examiners Who Violate Acknowledged Standards or Binding Laboratory Practices or Who Express Handwriting Opinions with Low Level of... Look at this. What do you guys think this is about? Come on. Look at this. Death of an Expert Witness, Discrediting Document Examiners who violate acknowledged standards or binding laboratory practices, or who express handwriting opinions with low levels of certitude. This workshop included an hour-long talk about how the work of a particular document examiner was discredited in a California civil case. The examiner at issue was not an FBI lab employee, along with a separate 20-minute talk titled How the FBI Has Failed to Enforce Its Own explicit standards applicable to handwriting comparisons, and improperly restricts the use of blind verification in handwriting cases. Fucking A. Oh, a larger picture. Wow, keeps you from getting a real job. Oh yeah. Fuck shit. Hey, JH, do you have a TV? I'm just curious. According to an email memo to the AAFS board by Kevin Kobiaki, a document examiner and the chair of the Academy's conference workshop committee, the FBI contacted the Academy after the workshop program was published to complain about the quote unquote the contents of these workshops and mentions explicitly of the FBI that were not made by the FBI staff. Kobiaki wrote that on December 16th, 2024, he and other members of AAFS leadership took a 30-minute call with Hunt to hear the agency's concerns. Regarding the mentions of the FBI in Workshop 19, Kobiaki opined that they aren't even disparaging of the FBI. In quotes, "It is common sense that prestigious organizations like the FBI affect perceptions of evidence credibility," he wrote. "This isn't controversial, and it takes one look at past discredited methodologies and case failures to see this." I would love to have Karen Reed's defense team talk about this. Wouldn't this be interesting to hear someone like an Alessi talk about this? I think it'd be very interesting. The mentions of the FBI in the workshop are valid criticisms that the Academy should welcome as promoting justice for all and integrity through forensic science, even if potentially uncomfortable conversations arise. This is how we, as a field, get better by acknowledging and addressing issues. Right? Where Workshop 25 was concerned, Kobiaki acknowledged that the references to a particular document examiner and to the failures of the FBI's question document unit, quote unquote, are certainly more antagonistic. And he suggests that perhaps the Academy should ask the workshop organizers to remove the examiner's name and to retitle Rising's talk to omit direct reference to the FBI in favor of the more, how an organization has failed. End quote. The point is that the FBI's primary concerns are not with the contents of the workshops, but with one of the people associated with one of the workshops. And this is what I was interested in because I wanted to hear more about. However, Kobiaki was also clear that 99% of the specific complaints raised by the FBI were about Tiffany Roy, one of the organizers of and presenters in Workshop 19. 99% of the complaints specified this broad's name. And I'm like, holy shit, this is the same woman that came out outing everything to do with the IGG loophole. And who was doing the IGG loophole with the genealogist? The fucking FBI. Just saying, like, that's just what it was about. That's what The Intercept had put out. It was actually the day that Vargas, I think, fucking did her testimony. Kobiaki recalled that Hunt complained about something Roy said during the 2024 AAFS conference in Denver. The gist of which was that real forensic science reform would begin once the old guard so wedded to past ways of doing things had passed on. Hunt also took issue with comments she'd posted on LinkedIn regarding the questionable testimony of an FBI DNA analyst in a case where she was serving as a defense expert. The prosecution ultimately decided against having the FBI's expert testify in court. Kolbiaki also noted that the FBI voiced displeasure at Mrs. Roy's efforts to hold the FBI to the standards detailed in a new report from the National Institute of Standards and Technology regarding DNA analysis that seek to mitigate the impact of human biases. Roy was a member of the working group that developed and authored the quote-unquote Forensic DNA Interpretation and Human Factors Report. The FBI's specific grievances about Roy were unwarranted, Kolbiaki opined, in quotes. The point is that the FBI's primary concerns are not with the content of the workshops, but with one of the people associated with one of the workshops, he wrote. That is not and should not be grounds for a threat by AAFS of content removal simply because they don't like someone affiliated with the workshop. Emphasis in original. Look at these fucking people. Like, talk about tea spilling over here. This is fucking good shit. This is good tea. This needs to be a far more nuanced decision that given the FBI their wish carte blanche, right? We're not going to let them just do whatever. Kolbiaki wrote that workshop vetting is designed as a blind process to keep such biases out of the mix. I was wondering how they vetted their, by ensuring that reviewers are unaware of the author's backgrounds. Blind reviews focus solely on the quality, relevance, and rigor of the content, leading to fairer and more objective evaluations. Imagine that. Both workshops at issue went through this process, Kolbiaki wrote. I am not here to tell you, the board of directors, how you should act on Hunt's complaints, he wrote, but said that he wouldn't be remiss if I, as the workshop chair, did not firmly voice that this needs to be a far more nuanced decision than giving the FBI their wish carte blanche. Thank you so much. This is just mind-blowing. On December 17th, the AAFS board voted unanimously with one member absent to ask the organizers of the two workshops to censor their presentations or face cancellation. Fucking A, are you kidding me? Dude, what the fuck is going on, man? We can't question shit. You need to change your fucking title. What? Excuse me? You guys, this is like a big deal. Two members of the board unanimously voted this way with one member absent to ask the organizers of the two workshops to censor their presentations or face cancellation. Two members of the board also suggested an apology to the FBI might be in order. You want me to apologize to the FBI about what? You guys, what the fuck? What a bunch of pussy ass bitches. Why don't you apologize? Apologize to them for what? Nothing's happened. We haven't even had. What the fuck are we apologizing for? You want me to suck my titties? You want me to apologize? I couldn't even. I was like, apologize. What apologize for what? I don't know what. Can you imagine? Can you just apologize for what? And then said, this will go a long way in mending fences if you just apologize. Remember, like, it's like your parent telling you just to apologize to somebody. Like, yep, tell that teacher that you're sorry. I didn't do anything, though. Okay, teacher, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for asking why I didn't get full credit for my homework. Okay. This will go a long way in mending fences. One board member suggested in an email. Kolbiacki's memo, with all its context regarding Hunt's complaints, was sent to the board in the wake of their vote. It is unclear whether the full board knew all the details before casting their votes. And minutes from the meeting are brief and they're spare. There's no fucking meetings, okay? There's no minutes here. Still, it appears Kolbiacki's memo did not give the members any pause about carrying out their plan. In a statement to The Intercept, the FBI denied that it acted to censor or deplatform anyone and said there was no discussion of the human factors report. Fuck. Kolbiacki declined to comment, but sources have confirmed for The Intercept that at least one other Academy member on the call with Hunt verified the details of the conversation memorialized in Kubiak's email. The situation infuriates Andrew Solmer, an attorney and document examiner who is one of the organizers of Workshop 25. He first caught wind that something peculiar was going on when he received an email from the Academy's executive director a day after the board vote, letting him know that Christopher Thompson, the organizer's president, wanted to have a short conversation with him. Solmer said Thompson told him that Hunt wanted mention of the FBI removed from Reisinger's presentation to, quote-unquote, avoid having a title memorialized in print and online that disparages the FBI, he recalled. Thompson also suggested that removing mention of the agency would maintain congeniality but I informed him that congeniality has nothing to do with such a request. Solner said Reisinger's presentation was solely about the question documents unit of the FBI lab and not some other crime lab. And that's why the FBI should be mentioned in the title. This has nothing to do about some other fucking crime lab. Okay. This is about the work of the FBI lab. So why would I say anything other than that? I love it. Like, this is fucking amazing. This is like what are you guys all fucking high? They're operating as a trade union for prosecutors and law enforcement. And this got my fucking, I was like, whoa. They're operating as a trade union for prosecutors and law enforcement. It's exactly what's happening here. Like, who's fucking writing for The Intercept, man? This is great. Solner said he was appalled to see the organization buckle under pressure from the FBI. But that's what they do. And that's the problem. They're operating as a trade union for prosecutors and law enforcement, end quote. He said, and less like the scientific organization they're supposed to be. It is unacceptable and violates the longstanding educational mission of the Academy, which is to improve forensic sciences by promoting good practices and exposing bad practices, period. It's exactly what this is supposed to be doing. But now we're bowing down to the FBI fucking writing in a memo and then the fucking president jerking off over it and do what you want. Ridiculous. Solner and his co-organizer, who is also on the AAFS board, agreed to several small changes in their workshop language, but Reisinger refused to remove the FBI from the title of his talk and instead opted to pull his presentation from the workshop. For his part, Reisinger said that the incident underscores the main point of his presentation. And I love somebody with fucking principle. Okay? I love somebody that, fuck you, dude. Then I don't need to fucking talk in this shit. Fucking go fill my fucking space. Fuck out of here. That's why I will talk about whatever the fuck I want to talk about. Go turn another fucking TV channel. You know what I mean? This is my TV station. Remember to hit the thumbs up. You are awesome, Lana. Thank you so much. You know, I try to dig for the good shit and talk about the good shit. Let's get the goods out, man. For his part, Reisinger said that the incident underscores the main point of his presentation and the underlining paper on the same topic that he intends to publish this year. He's publishing a fucking paper, man. You know what I mean? Reisinger said he'll be using the history of this development that would not allow me to have the FBI in the title in the article that I'm writing as more evidence of the extreme nature of the cultural problem at the FBI laboratory. Holy shit. This is a cultural problem. And you wanting me to make this about not the FBI laboratory is fucking, that's the whole, that's like, oh my God. You want me to talk about chocolate ice cream when I'm complaining about the vanilla serve ice cream at Dairy Queen because it's fucking mush. The chocolate one is fine. My fucking twist cones suck because at Dairy Queen, that part of the soft serve is fucking horrible. But you want me to fucking not talk about that. You want me to make it seem like this is just a fucking industry issue. But God damn it, it is not. It is about one part of my twist. Bless America. Caper Girl says, Lana, I really enjoy your content. You are a true person fighting for justice. Yeah, I try to fight for injustice too. You know what I mean? This is just bullshit. I just couldn't believe that fucking Tiffany Roy again. I found her name and I was like, why? They're going at this woman because she literally called shit out a couple years ago. And it was involved in this case. It was IGG, FBI, what secret lab they use, what secret genealogist they use, you know. We're pulling an all-nighter here, and I can't leave. This is just a train. Just, good Lord, it's almost 1:30. I know, just time flies. You've got censorship on the one hand and on one hand and an unwarranted revenge campaign on the other. Look at them just call this shit out. Salner also takes issue with the complaints Hunter made about Roy. He said that he sees the effort to muzzle Roy as vindictive. Remember I told you guys there's like a small knit community and they're just fucking crazy? Yeah. He said that he sees the effort to muzzle Roy as vindictive. I see the requests to, just completely get rid of her. Just silence Tiffany Roy as raising two separate issues, both very troubling, he said. You've got censorship on the one hand and an unwarranted revenge campaign on the other. In response to the AAFS vote in favor of Hunt's complaints, Roy and her fellow workshop organizer, also a former DNA analysis, removed the portion of the workshop titled Taking on the FBI, which her co-organizer was slated to present. It wasn't even Roy. And tweaked the workshop objectives to remove mention of the FBI. So Roy fucking did all that. And I would have been like, get fucked. Still, after learning about Hunt's personal complaints about her, Roy penned a lengthy email of her own to the AAFS board, accusing them in part of, In the run-up to the 2024 conference, Roy had approached Academy leadership with technical concerns she had regarding a particular workshop. Specifically, she alleged that the workshop presenters would be providing inaccurate instruction on an emerging field of DNA. Here we go. Here we go. Oh my fucking God. Ready? Ready? Oh boy. But her concerns were summarily dismissed. Again, this is about emerging. What do you guys think the emerging field is in DNA? Come on. We know what the emerging field is, right? The emerging field of DNA analysis would be IgG, right? But her concerns were summarily dismissed. In contrast, she noted the board appeared to jump through hoops to address Hunt's concerns without ever reaching out to her or her co-presenter. And she noted the irony in their actions regarding the decision to just basically, hey, ixnay the FBI from the educational objective in Workshop 19 that references exploring the impact of institutions like the agency's lab on the perceived credibility of forensic evidence. In quotes, you all are putting on a masterclass on exploring the impacts of prestigious institutions like the FBI, and I cannot wait to present this series of events during our workshop, she wrote. In response to Roy's email, the AAFS board has offered her 10 minutes to speak during one of its scheduled meetings during the Baltimore conference. For Roy, the incident also points to another serious flaw in the way forensic sciences are deployed in the criminal legal system. Control over forensics and crime labs is largely left in the hands of law enforcement agencies like the FBI, with little to no independence, which hinders efforts to ensure fidelity to science comes first. One of the as yet unfulfilled recommendations of the 2009 NAS report was that labs should exist as independent government entities out from under the thumb of police or prosecutor oversight. It should. The actions of the FBI in their effort to silence me as an advocate for oversight underscores the dangers of governmental control of the forensic sciences, she wrote in an email to The Intercept. In quotes, only when science is independent and objective can it serve truth or justice. Science beholden to an adversary entity is a pawn in a game with no winners. Hey, absolutely right. And now think about it. Who would ever had a fucking problem with that? Like, well, people that be cheating. If you what is it? If you eating, you ain't cheating. It's like the FBI. We can nibble. We're fine. So, I did a whole breakdown of what Othram did with ISP and how Othram handled when they did it with the FBI. And I believe that I'm accurate. You know, you would think that it wouldn't be such a fucking secret. So, also, if you guys want to know a review of the FBI's use of the pen registry and trap and trace devices under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, I got that covered too. I just like to learn. I also like to learn about the FBI's secret rules and how they handle informants and how they did things in 2017. All right. Now I'm going to go to bed and read the Idaho4 An American Tragedy. If you don't want to take the time to buy it, or you can't afford it, or you want someone to read it to you, I recommend Bedtime Stories with Bella Lugosi. She's going to read you every chapter. So those of you guys that maybe are working, doing stuff around your house, and you want to be able to listen to it like an audiobook, Bella's going to do that for you. It's pretty cool, right? So she's going to start reading her chapters. It kicks off tomorrow. I think it's noon Eastern Standard Time that she's going to do. And she's just going to upload a bunch of videos for you and break up. You know, it's just going to be straight read-throughs. It's not any dissecting of it. It's just so that you could know what the book says. This was the big James Patterson book. It's pretty thick. Easy read, though. Any questions? Thank you all those that have participated in Super Chats, new memberships, Bluebird, what's good? Halo Art, what's up? Help me, Rhonda. Help me, Rhonda. Again, Crystal White, thank you so much. WB. Oh, was it Tanda? She hit me up in Cash App. I don't want to fucking miss out. Thank you so much, Mama B, for sending me the email. I do appreciate that. I just saw that. Yeah. Brenda, $10 says thanks. Tandas, $20 says thank you. Thank you so much. Awesome. You guys rock. Thank you. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. There you go. Been watching you, but here in the live for the first time tonight. So glad you went over the IGG. Been saying Ann Taylor should have done an interlocutory appeal. I mean, honestly, it just shouldn't go down like this. I don't think we can blame Ann Taylor. These people know what they did, but at the same time, these people think that they did nothing wrong because we got a fucking killer off the street, you know? Can't wait for Bella. Y'all are the cat's pajamas. Thank you. Justice, thank you. Thank you back. Truth Seeker, how are you? Truth Seeker, good to see you. Kate, good to see you in here. Awesomely informative live tonight. Thank you. Thank you. Back at you. Jeremiah, good to see you. Thanks, Lana, for another great live. Truth and Transparency rocks. I miss you, buddy. Hopefully you're doing well. Oh, I got it today. It's just lame. There you go. Get it. Get it. Southern Grit. Thank you so much. That was a good find, Lana. Thank you. You're welcome. Something wrong. What's wrong with you? Best round at Scarlet Course. Oh, God, it's been a minute. I haven't played the Scarlet Course in a long time. It was college. It's been a while. Low 80s, high 70s. All right. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. Patty, good to see you in here. Again, there was a bunch of people. Moon, good to see you in here. I've been itching at the... I really wanted to get out all this stuff with this DNA. It's been... I even think there's more to it, but... yeah, we'll leave it at that. Corruption is everywhere. And like I said, this isn't about, Brian Colbert said that he did it. You know what I mean? Who the fuck admits to something like that? If you didn't, that's just fucking sick. And people go say, oh, to save his fucking life and I get the death penalty. What the fuck? What's life in prison? But, the death penalty shouldn't be used that way anyways. It shouldn't be used as a bargaining chip. It shouldn't be used to scare somebody into a plea deal. But this is not about that for me. This is about, you know how many fucking cases there are? It's about that 30% of the wrongful convictions. And this is the type of shit that goes on in those wrongful convictions. And that's why it matters when they say, would you rather set one man, an innocent man free, or have an innocent man go to prison, and it means that you're not going to get a guilty person? Yeah, that's exactly what I would choose. No innocent man should ever live in prison for something that they didn't do. And if that means teaching people a lesson and a guilty person is out there, then guess what? The fucking FBI, you can babysit that motherfucker for the rest of his life and to make sure that he will never hurt anybody. He's on you. Those of you guys that are following this channel with a case that we're going to take us back to 2005. And so I'm going to play you guys a little clip of that. I wanted to give you guys this little clip. Okay, here you go. George Smith, you guys just type in like George Smith cruise. I'll give you guys time to get caught up. You just watch one of like the date lines or the 2020s or this one. I mean, 48 hours. Get yourself just familiar with the background, and then I have all the deep dive in for you. It's wild. All right, until next time, guys. Peace out.